Check. Check. Oh, there we go. Haha. Well, that was annoying. Woo! Loud. Not bad. Got going on over here. Ooh, black screen. Black screen of death. Ooh, thought that didn't show up. All by myself again. Par for the course. Is today even Friday? Yeah, it's Friday. Okay. But I'm late. Super late. I think I'm usually on by 5. Man, lost track of time. That's probably why. Don't have people watching because I can't stay consistent. Ow. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? I'll let him talk for a little bit while I'm getting my videos ready.
A ridiculous assertion.
Because this crosses a line beyond like good faith misinterpretation or, well, he did say that they deserve 9. No, or this goes way beyond that and is.
What is this? Can't help but notice this is an all-white panel. What are your thoughts on Brianna Joy's thoughts on the woke woman's crazy commentary? I feel like her and Erica really don't like your movement. I don't know how to feel about it. It's because this is a vague concept.
I think I'm going to talk about this video later.
Because it's a vague concept and most people just don't understand it. That's
yeah. I'll come back to that. Oh.
So Sean Hannity had an absolute conniption and aneurysm live on air here because he invited on Oliver Larkin, the DSA candidate running for Congress in Florida's 25th district against the self-described Ron DeSantis Democrat, Jared Moskowitz. By the way, that race is coming up soon. I really hope anybody in Florida's 25th district, I hope you guys are listening. I hope you go vote for Oliver Larkin. It would be amazing if we took down Moskowitz. Now, by the way, don't get it twisted. This is a very, very difficult district. I just want you to know that. It's a very hard district. It's a tough race. Having said that, this guy's run a phenomenal campaign. He's doing all he can. He went on Fox News the other day and called Trump a pedophile. And the host crashed out and lost it and like ended the interview early when Oliver did that. So he's the real deal, bro. I'm a big fan of Oliver. He's coming on Crystal Kyle and Friends this week. Do not miss it. It should be a phenomenal interview. I'm really, really looking forward to it. But he's been making the rounds on Fox News. And the thing I love is that he's going on there to fight. Like, you know, if you are running in a Democratic primary and you're being invited on Fox News, the correct thing to do is to agree to go on and then fight him. And then create spectacle, raise money off that, get a bigger name for yourself, and try to win based off that. And he's doing it, and it's working. Like, there was a poll that came out. It was an internal Oliver Larkin poll. Previously, he'd been down 20 points, 30 points to Moskowitz. In the new poll that just came out, he was only down 2. Okay? Again, I don't know what's going to happen in this race. Very tough district, but he's doing a great job, and as good as he possibly could do given the circumstances, right? So, goes on Hannity's show, and boy, oh boy, does this get spicy and very fun. Let's watch.
Florida Democratic congressional candidate Oliver Larkin. I do appreciate you coming on. I do. Let's pick up
but fuck you. That's what he wants to say.
where we left off on my radio show. So I ask you, 2 each according to their need, from each American according to their ability. And I ask you, well, who said that? You did not know that it was Karl Marx. Have you had time to think?
Isn't that evidence that he's obviously not a communist? Right? Like, Hannity's trying to use that to say you're a communist. But like, if he didn't know that it was Karl Marx that said that, wouldn't that be evidence he's not a communist? Which you should like, right? See, this is what, I mean, Fox News is just fucking low IQ slop and drivel for the dumbest people in America who are currently dying, okay? That's what it is. And, like, you don't have to bother to try to make sense. It's just like, bad guy, good guy, go. It's like Neanderthal level shit. Let's keep going.
I've been focusing on meeting the people of our district, and I'm not coming at this from a theoretical point of view. I'm coming at this race from a pragmatic point of view of what the American people and the people of South Florida need, and that is Medicare for all, that is universal child care, that is the policy proposals that you just articulated on your show. This is what people, working class people, Democrats, Republicans, and independents want to see reflected in our government's priorities.
I love how he immediately hit Medicare for all, free child care. Now, in comes the crash out.
What gives you such confidence? Medicare for all, taxpayer-funded abortion.
Maybe because Medicare for all polls are like 60% or 70%, depending on which poll you look at. Maybe that's why he says people want that, because they fucking want that. Sean, you bulbous-faced bitch.
Federal government, prescription drugs, no more electoral college, automatic same-day voter registration, et cetera, which I think is ridiculous.
Why is that ridiculous? Automatic same-day voter registration. First of all, we should just have automatic voter registration, period, right? And that's, I think, what Oliver's position is. The reason you do that is because if you care about democracy, everybody has a right to vote. When they hit the age of being able to legally vote, automatically register them. If you make them do different paperwork things, you're just putting a hurdle in the way that's going to depress turnout or suppress turnout. Do you understand that? So, like, anybody who actually likes democracy would support automatic voter registration. But Hannity's like, that's ridiculous. Why is that ridiculous? By the way, he's not even going to make an argument, but that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous because Sean Hannity wants turnout low because that helps Republicans. And he cares more about Republicans winning than having a small d Democratic country.
Because you need time to check it out. $25 minimum wage. Let me ask you the question this way. Out of every dollar these so-called evil rich people make, how much should they be able to keep in their pocket after they pay all the taxes you and your fellow socialist/Marxists would like to take?
Oliver, why won't you think of the poor rich people? Oliver, you're being so mean to the people with all the money and all the power. Bro, you can't make this up. He's literally doing...
That's such the wrong question to ask. The question is, how much should a poor family be allowed to keep? But no. Oh, these poor rich people.
Doing a, like, you're victimizing the rich bit. Do you really think that's going to land in the year 2026 as gas prices are through the roof, as grocery prices are through the roof, as wages are stagnant, as like 80 or 90% of the country is already living in a recession? Do you really think that that's going to land, Sean? But the fact of the matter is he's preaching to, like I said, the oldest, dumbest people in the country who are dying. So it will land for them, but that's it. Everybody else going to watch this going, are you serious? Pity the poor rich is the argument you're making when they've gotten everything under this pedophile government?
How much should they be able to keep?
I think if we went back to the mid-20th century top marginal tax rates that we saw under the FDR, Truman, and Eisenhower administrations, that would be a fine place to start.
That's okay. Now, by the way, that's a direct answer. The top rate under Eisenhower, the top marginal tax rate was, I believe, like 93%. And that's on income. It's at, like, if you make over $3 million a year in today's money, that income over $3 million a year is taxed at 93%. I'm giving rough estimates. It's like $3 million or $5 million over that amount per year. Direct answer. Let's see how Hannity responds.
Was the golden age of the American middle class when we were expanding the share of wealth and equity in the country. And
you want? Well, give me a number. What percentage?
He just did. He just told you. I like the rates from FDR, Truman, and Eisenhower. That era. So if you don't know that, that's your fault. But that era, that is, if you make like over $3 million or over $5 million a year, somewhere in that range, that you'll be taxed at 93% on every dollar above the $3 or $5 million range.
I thought journalists were supposed to do research.
By the way, like he said, that was when our economy was the best it's ever been. So that obviously is the redistribution that comes about from that is a good thing.
Should every American be able to keep after they pay the government, local, state, federal?
It depends on the range of income that someone is making. For billionaires, I think that billionaires should be taxed out of existence. There's far too much money that is concentrated among the wealthy few.
You want to empower the government to take from the most creative providers, the most brilliant people in our country.
What is this billionaire worship? What the hell?
Sean, you bulbous-faced bitch.
I don't get it,
Top
man.
providers who are the most creative and the most special, precious little boys. Oh, really? Elon Musk is addicted to ketamine and Nazi posting on a daily basis as he steals $38 billion from the American people to make a bunch of rockets explode, okay? He's currently cutting pediatric cancer research and Meals on Wheels, and he's a fucking trillionaire. These people are parasites. You want to talk about parasites? I'm sorry. It's not the poor person who takes like $2 per meal to feed their kid to make sure they don't starve. The real parasites are the Elon Musk types, okay?
On to
Oliver
gaming.
knows that you don't know that. Look at Oliver's face. He's smiling as Sean Hannity is like doing his defend the billionaire shtick. Oliver is so based. He went on Fox News and said we should tax billionaires out of existence. Oh, inject it in my veins, bro. Let's go.
Now, I don't know many billionaires that are self-made that are stupid. Do you?
That's because you're an idiot. That's because you're dumb, and so you don't understand. You can't tell that they're dumb. You understand what I'm saying? Like you fall for all the messaging and the PR.
I don't know any.
Well, I think that in the case of someone like Elon Musk, he's taken billions of dollars in government subsidies and government handouts to enrich his further wealth, and he also
rescued astronauts that were abandoned by Joe Biden. I'm sure you're grateful for Elon.
Pretty sure had NASA funding not been cut by this administration, they would have been capable of doing the same
what
thing.
have you done? Oh, Sean. By the way, he gave you a direct answer. He was like, oh, yeah, can you name one stupid billionaire? And he's like, Elon Musk.
His contribution there, right? I'm grateful for that.
Well, I mean, Elon Musk didn't even start his own company. He just bought it out, and this is, someone.
Okay, but I'm sure you are grateful that he rescued astronauts that Joe Biden.
Say thank you to Elon. Say thank you to Elon right now. In Elon we trust. Yes, in Elon we trust. I wonder, does Sean Hannity have any thoughts on Elon Musk fighting to allow Grok to make child pornography? Do you have any thoughts on that? Imagine if it was a Democrat who fought to allow AI to make child pornography. What Sean Hannity would say. Imagine if it was a Democrat who took $38 billion in your tax money and my tax money to make a bunch of rockets explode. Imagine if it was a Democrat who constantly did vaporware and fraud and lied about their business acumen and stole from investors. Imagine if it was a Democrat, what he would say in that scenario.
Biden abandoned in space 200 and some odd days.
Sean, I'm not really sure what you're speaking to. The International Space Station, I think
I'm talking about the guys that needed to be rescued, and Joe Biden did nothing, and Elon Musk rescued them.
This is total, like, right-wing, inside-the-bubble, claptrap nonsense.
I'm sure you're grateful. All right,
I think that we should have a national NASA
billionaires
system
should be
that is
taxed
actually
out of
funded,
existence.
not having Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk making their own rockets.
Somebody making $100,000 a year, how much of every dollar should they be able to keep?
I think that the tax rate on most middle-class Americans and
Oliver,
Sean,
give me a number.
It's not that
how
easy.
much out of every dollar should they be able to keep?
On cable news, but
$100,000. No, $100,000. How much of every dollar should they be able to keep? It's a simple question.
He said, I don't think we should be raising taxes on middle-class Americans, is what he said.
How much are you willing to let the government take? How much? Give us a number.
I want to see a return on our taxpayer investment. We pay
Give us a number. Somebody works hard, makes $100,000 a year. How much of every dollar should they keep?
I'm not interested in changing the tax rate on middle-class Americans, on people making $100,000. I want to raise taxes.
There you go. So he doesn't want to raise it at all on $100,000.
Somebody that makes $500,000 a year, $500,000.
So now he ups it. He's like, oh shit, that one didn't work. All right, what about $500,000? Before you're doing the pity the poor billionaire routine. Now you're going to do the pity the poor $500,000 a year earner routine. Is that what you're going to do? Do you have any idea? That's like, I think that's like the top 1% of, or maybe top 2% of income earners. You're still talking about the rich there at 500, at the 500 line.
A year, how much out of every dollar should they be able to keep?
It is in proportional to the top marginal tax
Give
rate.
me
that
a
we
number.
See, where if you're making
Oliver, give me
Sean,
a number. How much
Sean,
out of every dollar should they
It's
keep?
not that simple.
It's not that simple. You're
They
the
should
one that
be
wants,
getting back what they
cradle
put
to grave, womb to the tomb,
They should
Green
be
New
getting out
Deal.
what they put into the system.
Okay, so how much
The Green New Deal,
in your head?
we should have public ownership of utilities. We're
The
experiencing a
DSA
climate
people talk a
crisis.
lot about fairness. What is fair for a guy that makes $500,000 a year? Out of every dollar, how much should the government get?
I guarantee you, whatever he would say, you'd have Sean Hannity do, that's too much, how dare you? So again, notice who he's concerned about. First it was the billionaires, now it's the $500,000 a year earners that he's very concerned about. Isn't that insane? Isn't that insane in this environment to be like, these are the people I care about, and these are the people who are being oppressed?
Answer the question. Why don't you stop playing games?
Answer the question.
Oh, gosh golly gee willikers, I'm yelling so hard that my face is becoming even more rotund and bulbous by the second.
The person making $500,000, $1 million a year, they should pay the same rate in Social Security tax as the rest of the working class because there's a Social Security.
How much?
Okay, that is a fucking answer. If you know anything about the way the system works, Sean Hannity, which you don't, then you do know that if you make $500,000 a year, you pay actually a lower percentage of your money to Social Security than somebody who makes like 80 grand a year. Because we have what is effectively a regressive tax system. So when he said they should pay at least the same when it comes to Social Security, what he's advocating for there is raising the cap so that you have LeBron James pay the same percentage on his income for Social Security as does somebody who makes 50 grand a year or 80 grand a year or 65 grand a year. Because right now, the people really carrying the burden of that are the lower income earners. If you lift that cap, then Social Security is fully funded as far as the eye can see. So he's giving a direct answer to the question. Hannity's acting like it's not a direct answer. Every question he asked, he gave a direct answer, and Hannity pretended like it wasn't a direct answer.
How much out of every dollar should go to taxes? How much can they keep?
$184,500 a year.
Oliver, this is my last shot.
Did you hear? He gave specific numbers there, and Hannity's pretending like he's not. Did you hear that?
Give me a number. How much out of every dollar should go to taxes? How much can they keep?
$184,500 a year.
Oliver, this is my last shot, and I'm going to say goodbye.
I literally can't even. He's bringing up numbers, but I can't even hear what he's saying because Hannity's yelling over it.
I'm not talking. I asked you 500 grand a year. How much should go to the government out of every dollar? How much should they be able to keep? Answer the question. Be honest, for crying out loud. What's fair?
They should pay the same Social Security tax rate as working class Americans.
Goodbye.
We need to raise the taxable income cap on Social Security.
You don't want to tell
are
your
not
real
paying
opinion because you...
That is it! Oh my God, that's literally a direct answer. It is literally a direct answer to say, let's stop with the Social Security tax being regressive. Because whatever the number is now, it's like 125,000, or I guess it's more than that now, 150,000, whatever it is. Every dollar above that isn't taxed at all for Social Security. So he's saying lift the cap on that. He's like, that's not an answer. It is a direct answer. It is a direct answer. Okay.
No, you will look stupid. To each according to their need, from each according to their ability. That makes you a Marxist.
Okay. Ready for this? Scroll down, and you immediately see Oliver Larkin, no money from AIPAC. Jared Moskowitz, who he's running against, $833,000 from AIPAC. But my favorite one, leave the pedophile billionaires alone. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Sean Hannity. Nobody in the history of U.S. politics has ever shown so much concern for the billionaires and then the $500,000 a year earners while showing no concern for those making, under 100 grand a year. Okay? This is Sean Hannity's concern at this moment when the income and wealth inequality is worse than the Gilded Age. I threw my voice out there in anger. Worse than the Gilded Age. The bottom 80% of Americans only have 7% of the wealth. Sean Hannity doesn't give a shit. He's not concerned about them. He's concerned about the rich. The top 1% stole $80 trillion from the bottom 90% since 1974. Hannity doesn't give a shit. He doesn't want you to raise taxes on the rich. By the way, on that alone, isn't that an argument to raise tax on the rich massively? Because the top 1% stole $80 trillion from the bottom 90%? I mean, that alone, that makes the case all by itself, but he would never touch that in a million years. The bottom 50% of Americans only holds 2.6% of the wealth. He doesn't care about them. He cares about the billionaires and the $500,000 a year earners because he is a pathetic loser. Pathetic right-wing MAGA hack. And he knows they're losing relevance and they're about to get wiped the fuck out, and so he's panicking and crashing out, but Oliver held his own there and did a phenomenal job. All right, y'all. That's the show, man. Love y'all very much. You guys know the drill. Everybody do me a big favor and subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon. You can also support the show on Patreon if you're so inclined. That link is below. You can sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. Oliver Larkin coming on this week. Don't want to miss that. And then, of course, you guys can also go sub to Corn's World and come hang out with us live on Monday nights over there. All right, I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
We got a version 2.0 of Donald Trump's unlawful birthright citizenship executive order. Yes, the president is once again trying to deny people their constitutional right to birthright citizenship and violate the Constitution. So you probably remember that by an extremely narrow 5-4 vote, the Supreme Court said the president's first effort to deny people birthright citizenship violated the Constitution. That narrow bare majority was basically an invitation to try again, and so he has. The last executive order denied birthright citizenship to people born in the United States to parents who were lawfully but temporarily here, or to parents who were here without legal authorization. The new executive order denies birthright citizenship to different categories of people, including some people who the administration conceded were birthright citizens in the last round of litigation. That is, they recognize people were entitled to birthright citizenship in the last go-around that they are now attempting to deny people birthright citizenship. Just a reminder that the first sentence of the 14th Amendment says that all persons born and naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. In Trump versus Barbara, the Supreme Court, by 5-4 votes, says the amendment says what it says, that people who are born here are citizens. It doesn't matter the citizenship, allegiance, or domicile of their parents generally, absent extremely narrow exceptions, such as children born to an invading army or children born to foreign diplomats who are representing the foreign government. Now, the new 2.0 EO executive order denies citizenship to 4 categories of people, in my view, unconstitutionally, at least the first 3, which I at least understand what they're even talking about. So the first group targeted under the new executive order is children of 2 non-citizen parents, where one parent is a member of a designated foreign terrorist organization. This appears to sweep much more broadly and yet be based on the established constitutional exception for the children born to enemy soldiers occupying U.S. land. Who might the administration be attempting to extend this to? I think we should think of the people, for example, the administration tried to send to the foreign torture prison in El Salvador on the ground that those individuals were Venezuelan gang members. I think that's who the administration might have in mind and be targeting if people similar to those sent to the foreign torture prison, if they had children. So the second group targeted by the new executive order is children born to 2 non-citizen parents, where one parent works at their country's embassy, for any foreign government in an official capacity, or for an international body with immunity. This exception appears to sweep way more broadly and, again, be drawing on another exception, that is the exception for children of ambassadors. I'm pretty sure it violates the Constitution. It conditions birthright citizenship on the status of one parent alone, as with the previous exception and first category of people denied birthright citizenship. So just to take some examples, under this second category, the child of 2 green card holders, I think, would be denied birthright citizenship if one parent worked as a janitor for, let's say, the United Nations. Or let's say the children of students, where one student is employed by the foreign government back home, which could be a lot of people, given that at least some foreign students may be on government-backed scholarships to the United States. The new executive order targets a third group, and that's children born to 2 non-citizen parents where either parent is engaged in birth tourism or hired a surrogate in the United States or engaged in any fraudulent activity to obtain citizenship, whatever the F that means. So this seems illegal under the Supreme Court's opinion. It would seem to deny birthright citizenship to the children of 2 lawful permanent residents, that is green card holders, if their child is conceived to be a surrogate in the United States. Finally, the fourth category the order targets are children born to two non-citizen parents in territory or territorial waters of the United States where citizenship is not conferred by federal statute. I don't know what the fuck that means, but it's definitely capitalizing on something that the Supreme Court suggested. And there is a song about whose fault this is. The song is called Blame Brett by the Beaches. So I'm going to try to explain why Brett Kavanaugh owns this. So Brett Kavanaugh is the coward who, in the last Supreme Court go-round, said that the president's first wildly illegal executive order was constitutional, but happened to violate a federal law passed by Congress. That is, Kavanaugh said that the elected branches of the federal government could deny birthright citizenship to some people born in the United States. That ensured birthright citizenship would remain a political question, and indeed it has. Second, as I was trying to show in my description of the categories targeted by the new executive order, the different categories seem like they are efforts to expand upon recognized narrow exceptions to the guarantee of birthright citizenship, such as from an exception for children of ambassadors to an exception for children of people employed in any capacity by a foreign government, or from the exception of children of armies to now children of people designated by the administration as foreign terrorist organizations, which of course they do quite broadly. So who told the administration to try this, to widen the exceptions based on changed circumstances? Fucking Brett Kavanaugh. Here's what Kavanaugh wrote in his opinion in the birthright citizenship case. Quote, "The Constitution is an enduring document, and its principles were designed to and do apply to modern conditions and developments." He said, quote, "So ordinarily, the constitutional exceptions apply to new circumstances," end quote. That's a direct quote. Basically, he is saying, take the recognized exceptions and run with them. Expand on them, my guys. And here is Stephen Miller basically admitting that is what they are doing, taking the recognized exceptions and expanding them.
The president is using his authority as commander-in-chief to sign first an executive order using the new ruling the Supreme Court issued to expand the definitions of people who are ineligible for birthright citizenship.
So that is Stephen Miller saying they are using the new ruling the Supreme Court issued to expand the definition of the people who are ineligible for birthright citizenship. And that is exactly what Brett Kavanaugh told them to do and suggested they could do.
Strict Scrutiny is a Crooked Media production. Our show is produced by Melody Rowell and Michael Goldsmith. Our music is by Eddie Cooper. Our team includes Matt DeGroat, Ben Heathcote, Johanna Case, Kenny Moffat, Adam Lippert, and Eric Shute.
I do legitimately think these guys are trying to get me killed. I will say it.
And look, if people embrace Piker, would this be the ultimate undoing for the Democrat Party?
I hope so.
I hope so. I don't think so, but I hope so.
No faith in that, because their Achilles heel has always been they don't know when to stop. They don't know how far they've gone. But the country keeps changing, Stu. So we import a lot of people that bring in foreign ideologies. There's a larger and larger pool.
It's beautiful that immediately the reasonable Republican concern immediately turns to great replacement theory. Like, remember, this guy's supposed to be the moderate Republican, right? Turning Point USA, spiritual successor, not as ridiculous as like a Nick Fuentes type, right? And what is the difference? I mean, him and Nick Fuentes completely align on the great replacement. It's just he doesn't think Jews are responsible for the great replacement. Nick Fuentes thinks Jews are responsible for the great replacement. That's it. But they still agree that the great replacement is taking place, that the Democratic Party, like he would probably say George Soros is doing the third world migration into the United States. Nick Fuentes says it's all Jews. So even on that front, there's not like a big fundamental difference there. It's so strange that we act as though the Republicans are not the radical ones. It's actually like if you're a liberal and you lean in any way, shape, or form to the idea that like someone like myself represents a radical wing, a radical perspective. Meanwhile, these are the guys. These are the normal guys on Fox News. And this is the normal commentary coming from the normal Republican Party. I mean, you're out of your mind. It's completely ridiculous.
even all of those clips, you've left out so many about how he's excited about impoverishing the white middle class, how he jokes about a better era when we go back to lynchings when it comes to black people.
Wait, what? They've lost their dang minds, I think. That one is, what, I don't even know what that is a reference to. Is that the one that like they put up as a, hold on, that was Scott Jennings lied about it? What the
on top of these candidates,
what are they?
Yeah, choose to keep for company. Just listen to this. Hassan Piker in Cut 8.
I don't give a f what black people care about. Oh, black people care about this, black people care about that. Like, shut the f up. That's not how politics works. Oh, well, Hassan, how dare you? Like it or not, black people care about this issue.
The issue is literally a guy LARPing as a black person saying black people care about ICE.
Our plan will lower costs and save many middle-class families thousands of dollars a year.
Like it or not, black people care about the border. Man, shut the fuck up. Black people care about the border. I don't give a fuck what black people care about or what you think black people care about, okay? I'm talking across the board. The Democratic Party literally is going to fucking lose. And even if they don't lose, move the country to a significantly more right-wing position, okay? Oh, black people care about this, black people care about that. Like, shut the fuck up. That's not how politics works, okay? I hate that. I hate this, like, shield, okay? I hate this fucking idiotic shield, okay? Oh, well, Hassan, how dare you? Like it or not, black people care about this issue. It's like, it's such a fucking stupid stance, okay? It's such an idiotic stance. Nobody operates like this, okay? Black people don't operate like this either. Shut the fuck up. Stop using this as a fucking shield.
Children with asthma?
Random anonymous guy claiming, oh, black people care about the border, black people care about ICE. You don't know what black people care about. Which is bullshit. That's not true. A chatter that wasn't even black, by the way. Just a person that was either LARPing as a black person or just claiming to speak for all black people. It's like, it's such a fucking stupid stance.
Any other black folk want to engage in radical activist language in this fucking chat?
This one is me responding to someone saying all black people are voting for Eric Adams.
And will some of the older voters, even in the black community and Latino community, come out and vote for him when you have Eric Adams, the incumbent mayor, on the ballot, who still has...
Dog, Eric Adams is despised by every group in the state. Every group in the city. Like, the notion that older black voters are gonna go for Eric Adams is insane. I mean, your analysis on this is bad. All black voters do typically not budge due to historical mistrust. I'm gonna fucking lose my mind. Dog, I know I'm saying that the older black voting bloc goes off of the machine that directs them as an unstoppable force in whichever direction the Democratic Party wants to go towards. The argument is simple. Will the Democratic establishment machine, out of fear that they'll have like an uncontrollable force like fucking Eric Adams, try to move it and funnel older black voters as a voting bloc in the direction of Zohran Mamdani?
Can you hear me okay?
Even if they don't do that, will Zohran Mamdani still win? And I think the answer is yes. Clown take. Can you shut the fuck up when it comes to black folks? You really don't want to talk about us unless it comes from voting. When is the last time you spoke about Sudan? I'm gonna ether you. Any other black folk want to engage in radical activist language in this chat? Suck my cock, okay? You stupid fucking red. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of my chat. Stupid, moronic, fucking rad-lib nonsense. Suck my fucking dick. Fuck you. Suck my
Yes, dude, it's because I'm racist. That's why. It's because I'm racist, dude. Go back to a better time when lynchings were happening. This is what I like as a black man. Are you always doing too much with black people? Leave them alone. I want to go back to lynching. Like, I get it, but relax. Man, shut the up, okay? Yeah, I'm reading someone's comment in that one. You got me, okay? You got me. I'm a racist person.
You just heard campaigns all the time.
If anyone gets duped by this edit, I'm sorry. You are the biggest moron of all time.
First, let's start with the rhetoric that is put on black people. So you and I disagree on pretty much everything political.
Dog, you know this dude is this motherfucker? Uncle Tom's favorite nephew? Ew. Why do professional black Republicans always do this? Like, escape the plantation. Uncle Tom's favorite nephew is like, why are you adopting white supremacist framing and white supremacist language voluntarily to describe yourself? It's so weird, dude. Yeah, I mean, he's a preacher, you guys, so of course.
The other part of that is when we start looking at what is actually hurting us on a systemic level. Let's look at policy. One of the biggest things that are hurting black Americans today is policy regarding crime. We have all of these woke DAs who are putting forth policy.
Woke DAs, right.
He said, we need more Klansmen as DAs, okay? Can we go back to a better time when lynchings were happening? This is what I like as a black man. Also, there's no real racism in America. My man said woke DAs, dude. What are you saying?
About or getting rid of policies, I should say, with like the 3 strikes rule, which is allowing repeat offenders on the street. We got.
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. He said we need to repeal the 3 strikes rule. Or like he said, repealing the 3 strikes rule is a bad thing. Sorry. Yeah, we need more mass incarceration.
The cash bail system, which again is letting criminals back on the street, and all this different list of issues where they're even decriminalizing theft under $900. Who is that destroying? Businesses and opportunities in black predominant areas. So when we talk about why we're still struggling, that has a big reason, because we're losing our opportunities.
Yeah. I would just like to say that I empathize on every position that you have that you explained to me, especially when talking about people calling you names.
Why are you always doing too much with black people? Leave them alone. I want to go back to lynching. Like, I get it, but fucking relax. Man, shut the fuck up, okay? God damn. Yes, dude, it's because I'm racist. That's why. It's because I'm fucking racist, dude. You got me. Okay, you got me, because I'm a fucking racist person.
People saying really mean and nasty things to you, demeaning you.
Like, there's a line, okay, when talking about or to black conservatives. I do not cross that line, okay? I might come near that line, but I do not cross that line. So shut the fuck up. I understand the boundaries, okay?
You because of your race, I would argue. I experienced that as a black conservative, and it was the hardest part of being a black conservative. But I don't understand
me reading a goddamn comment that I very clearly disagree with being turned into a genuine position that I have. Let's be real. If I actually believed those things that they're claiming I believe, you would straight up defend me, Scott Jennings. What are you talking about? When I say, yeah, I'm a racist, you got me, I'm being sarcastic. The 5 jump cuts in 10 seconds. What are we doing? Normie lives like my dad would get tricked. I mean, Normie lives like your dad probably also believe in AI videos too. This is the most insincere version of events. Clip chimping is too OP, please nerf. That's crazy. 7 3-second clips sequenced together by the Republican Party. Nobody believes this shit, bro. Don't get too worked up about it. I know. I don't think the only people that are believing, quote unquote, believing this stuff are people who are motivated to make this an issue. It's like this is the equivalent of me going, I love black people. I hate when people hate black people, and then they clip the parts to make it seem like I'm saying I hate black people. Like, to clip the different parts of the commentary to be like, see, he did it. It's incredible. The problem with this, though, is that this kind of narrative would have no partisan. This kind of narrative would immediately fall by the wayside for partisans. Like, Democrats would look at this and go, what the f are you talking about? This dude is literally an advocate for Black Lives Matter from the start. You're out of your dang mind. Saying these are his positions is totally ridiculous. If these were actually his positions, you'd be in support of him. But the issue is CNN, MS Now, a lot of legacy publishers will not do that. A lot of legacy publishers are not going to go out and say this is total partisan hackery. You've chopped up the things that he's saying in an effort to present him as like being anti-black, when it's very clear that's not the case. The problem is a lot of establishment media, a lot of mainstream media, a lot of conservative adjacent media also see me as a problem. They see me as a problem for other reasons. They don't see me as a problem because I speak out against police brutality. They see me as a problem because I'm a prominent critic of Israel. Let's be real. Scott Jennings is, by the way, directly paid by the pro-Israel Hasbara network. We know this to be the case.
Liberty, you still there?
Administration.
You hop in, just say bro, then you dip.
Manager, former Trump staffer, I forget what his, Brad Parscale is his name. Brad Parscale got paid millions of dollars from the Israeli government, had to register as a foreign agent to specifically engage in this influence peddling operation. This is probably one aspect of said operation. He's gonna bring this shit up on an Abby Phillip panel if you don't at least threaten to sue him over it. I don't know what opportunities we have for litigation, but it is one of the grossest clip chimps I've ever seen. But Scott Jennings is a part of Salem Media. Salem Media is the white nationalist, Christian nationalist network, right? And Salem Media got a lot of money from Brad Parscale, specifically to do pro-Israel commentary, to attack Israel's critics. So just remember that. When you think about this kind of thing, remember that there is a network of money and moneyed interest coming directly from the Israeli government to conduct this kind of narrative peddling. Happy to help form a litigation team for you to go after these clowns. I mean, I'll look at what options are available to me, because yeah, this is completely out of control. I mean, it's such an unbelievable attempt to slander, to smear. I mean, I don't know if there's an opportunity here to pursue litigation. Probably. It is one of the instances where it is very clear that they are chopping things down. I don't know what the legal avenues I have for defamation. Like, I don't know if there are other previous cases where someone has just been like clipped like this so blatantly to present the exact opposite of their position. They're testing how insane they can get before you hit them with a lawsuit. I'm warning you, they're testing what they can get away with. Stop saying that you won't do it. No, I'm not. I'm not saying I won't do it. I think this is consequential. This is clear-cut. This is clear-cut defamation. He's showing your clip. He's just showing your clips. How will you prove intent? Great question. Great question. I already gave you the example, right? If I were to say, I love black people and I hate when people hate black people, and they cut it down to make it seem like I was saying I hate black people, that's obviously defamation. It's not my position at all. They're trying to say that I'm racist. They're trying to say that I'm pro-lynching. The edit itself and the additional commentary surrounding the edit itself is totally ridiculous. Statement is actual malice standard of Times v. Sullivan. They made this statement either knowing it was false or with reckless disregard to the truth. Yeah, as a public figure, you'll have to prove actual malice, tough standard. I don't know if that's such a tough standard, because I think my advocacy in this space for the last 13 years actually proves, especially if there's enough evidence of these guys in the past criticizing my commentary being too pro-black, right? And
actually, no, I did think about it. I was like, what about pizza? And I was like, pizza's not good for me, but I want it.
So black people, leave them alone. I want to go back.
So I decided not to do anything.
Fucking relax, man. Shut the fuck up, okay? God damn.
I told you I want pizza, but it's not good for me. So
yeah, I'm literally reading a comment, and they clipped it in a way to make it seem like that's my own personal assessment, my own personal opinion. Like, look at all of the surrounding evidence that's readily available that's lost in the context here in the way that they cut this. I'm sorry. This is clear-cut, reckless disregard for the truth, especially considering that I'm reading someone else's comment and saying I disagree with it. There is 0% chance that the person who clipped it, the Republican NRSC account that clipped this and put it in a compilation, thought that this was a sincerely held belief of mine. Because if they did, they wouldn't have actually taken the time and effort to just zoom into my face. They wouldn't have taken the time and effort to clip just me reading the comment. This is ridiculous. Doesn't the Fox News commentator explicitly say that's your position? Yes, that is exactly what they're saying, and that's what Andrew Colvin is saying here as well. So here's the thing. We're now beginning to learn the tactic that will be deployed by the Republican Party in the midterms, right? They're not just going to say, oh, Hassan is a radical. This channels his viewpoint, but is like egregious, right? He hates America because he said this or that. Like, there's a different standard, right? There's something you can say by using my 9/11 comments, even if it's untrue, is to say that, like, oh, I hate America. I think that that's like a more difficult case to prosecute, a more difficult defamation case to prosecute. But it's clear that they're not just doing that. They're going to turn around and not just say that, like, oh, Hassan is Hassan is in favor of bad things for America. They're just going to straight up say things that are the opposite of what I believe, and they're testing the waters right now.
I said that this DSA movement is motivated by a hatred of white America. Well, actually, it turns out they hate anything that gets in their way. Any group that doesn't get on and refuses the revolution, that's just up against the DSA. And so Hassan Piker is a malignant, parasitical force in American politics, and I hope he's rejected as he should be.
So I just don't understand why more Democrats are not calling him out.
Perhaps it's because you guys have made up a phenomena, and most people are of sound mind, and they recognize that you're insincerely launching this conquest.
Democrats look to regain control of Congress. Twitch streamer Hassan Piker has emerged as a lightning rod within the party.
Who's Hassan Piker, prominent streamer dividing the Democratic Party? KATV? What the
Progressives embracing his young male audience, while moderate Democrats have pushed back.
This aired on local Sinclair media in the country? What the now local Sinclair media is up my ass too? Holy moly. Oof. Rupert Murdoch is obviously put the crosshairs on me, and now we got Sinclair on top of it too. Jesus Christ.
Against his inflammatory rhetoric.
I do legitimately think these guys are trying to get me killed. I will say it. I mean, it doesn't feel great to be in this situation, but it's obvious that the narrative is set in where the goal here is to just basically say, like, this is the most nefarious, most toxic force in American politics. Someone has to do something.
Look, we're seeing now past video of Francesca Hung. She just lost in Wisconsin. We get that. She's hanging out with Hassan Piker, very toxic, dangerous streamer with his words, at least. Also, El Sayed was with him the night before his victory a couple of weeks ago. Piker is now objecting to what he deems as a threat against him. That's despite repeatedly making horrific threats against all sorts of Americans in this country. Conservative activist Laura Loomer posted this weekend, quote, "One of these days, Hassan Piker is going to talk bleep to the wrong person, and then I'm going to make that person..."
Dude, they're getting unbelievably shameless. I mean, this is no longer just like a slander smear operation. They're just actively highlighting people putting a hit out on me. That is crazy. And what's even crazier is the fact that Neera Tanden is literally quote retweeting this person. Neera Tanden, prominent president of Center for American Progress, sitting on the board for Center for American Progress, the premier quote-unquote left-wing think tank. That Neera Tanden reposted Laura Loomer's deranged rants, claiming that I was doing ninja takia. as in hiding my true radical Islamist jihadist perspective, is just unfiltered Islamophobia. And Neera Tanden, supposedly a progressive figure in Democratic Party politics, reposted that, retweeted that.
A give, send, go. Piker responded with prominent MAGA crazy, actively contracting a hit out on me. Let's listen to Piker.
If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would Rick Scott.
Yeah, kill them. Kill those motherfuckers. Murder those motherfuckers in the street. Let the streets soak in their red capitalist blood.
Did he go to war and like literally lose his eye because some mujahideen, a brave soldier, his eye hole with their? Isn't that how he lost his dumb eye? America deserved 9/11, dude. I'm saying it.
And this is the man many Democrats continue to be seen with. Francesca Hong, Abdul El-Sayed, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Ilhan Omar, and more. You know, CJ, there was a call from one of my Democrat guests.
I mean, the question is pretty simple. Like, if I were to say what Laura Loomer said about me, about Rick Scott, I would get a call from Secret Service, right? I would get a call from the FBI. My comments about Rick Scott were very clearly not a call for an assassination because I was responding to what Mike Johnson was saying. It was more so about the hypocrisy of the Republican Party. It was about the hypocrisy of the Republican Party, not necessarily caring about Medicare fraud at all, because Rick Scott is the award-winning Medicare fraudster, right? So it's very clear what she's saying, and it's also very clear that Republicans have basically unlimited bandwidth to say whatever they want about their political opposition. So this is moving beyond the smear territory and moving into someone should do something about Hassan Piker territory, just fomenting so much hatred with the hopes that, you know, someone who's watching Fox News tries to, you know, take violent action against me directly or my family. I mean, this is not new for Fox News. This is something that, what's his face? Yeah, Tiller, the baby killer territory is where we're arriving at. Yeah, George Tiller, the O'Reilly factor. Tiller was discussed in 28 episodes of the Fox News talk show, The O'Reilly Factor, in the years leading up to his death, focusing national attention on his practice. Although he later denied it, the show host Bill O'Reilly sometimes described him as Tiller the Baby Killer, a nickname that Congressman Bob Dornan had used on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives. In November 2006, O'Reilly aired an exclusive report on the O'Reilly Factor, saying that he had an inside source with an official clinic documentation indicating that Tiller performed late-term abortions to alleviate temporary depression in pregnant women. O'Reilly characterized Tiller as a savage on the loose, killing babies willy-nilly, and accused him of operating a death mill and of protecting the rapists of children. He suggested that Tiller performed abortions for women who had a bit of a headache or anxiety, or who felt a bit blue. In June 2007, O'Reilly said on air that he would not be Tiller if there is a judgment day, also including in that judgment Kansas Governor Kathleen Sebelius and other Kansas politicians who support Tiller's business of destruction. O'Reilly's campaign against Tiller included the on-air disclosure and confidential patient information provided by former Kansas Attorney General Bill Klein. For this breach of professional conduct, Klein's law license was eventually suspended indefinitely. But they haven't gone this far with you, though? You think they haven't gone this far? They've gone way further. What are you talking about? Bill O'Reilly did 28 instances of news coverage on George Tiller before someone went to the church that he was at and killed him. O'Reilly denied responsibility for Tiller's murder and defended his campaign against Tiller, saying, "When I heard about Tiller's murder, I knew pro-abortion zealots and Fox News haters would attempt to blame us for the crime, and that's exactly what has happened." The level of slander, smears as an America hater, as a terrorist, as the arch terrorist, Islamist jihadist that wants death and destruction for all Americans, that wants to murder Americans left and right, that wants to lynch black people, but also is anti-white and wants to do the great replacement, which is completely ridiculous. I've already had Rupert Murdoch's media outlet outside of my house twice now. Once with a drone, with aerial photos of my house. What do you think that is? Why do you think they're doing that? This has been happening on a daily basis since the end of March. Virtually every single day. Hundreds of articles have been written. And there's one other difference here. There's no defense from the liberal media side as well. There is no defense from liberal media. There's no like, this is actually going into a dangerous territory. This is actually broaching dangerous territory where they're actively trying to foment violence against this person that they're declaring to be a dangerous terrorist, a dangerous radical. These are the same people who also complained and said that their Nazi policies were actively, their Nazi policies should not be called out as Nazi-style policies because that they were, you know, threatening violence against prominent Republicans. So yeah, what do you think this is? And it only is taking place because I made the foolish mistake of throwing this community's weight around in elections. First and foremost, the goal here is, of course, to engage in a disciplining operation. So anyone else that wants to do this, think twice before attempting. They want to punish people for speaking out. This is a clear-cut threat. They want to silence, not just myself, they want to silence this movement. It's not dissimilar to what the Biden administration and the Trump administration that continued along in the same way, what they did to the pro-Palestine movement, the student encampments, arresting them. What's remarkable about it, once again, is the fact that Democrats were like, we got to activate young men. We need our own Joe Rogan to the left. Who's the Joe Rogan to the left? Oh, it's Hassan. And now they're going, oh, not like this. So yeah, this isn't a great situation to be in, I won't lie. I mean, I'm a very stubborn person, so I'm going to continue pushing through it, but hopefully they'll let up at some point. But it's crazy.
Earlier this hour, well, they just need to stay away from him. You know, the problem with that is it's not the vicinity. Like, I don't think there's much difference between these candidates and him, whether they sit next to him or not.
I think one of the worst aspects of this is how lonely it is here. I'll be honest. I have my community. I have this movement broadly, but like everyone is obviously busy with their own thing. But it does suck that there are very few, like, candidates, politicians. They love what we have to bring to the table. They love the fundraisers. They love the rallies. But it does kind of suck at times. And same with media. Media loves giving me coverage, but there's no pushback against this until it's going to be, you know, far too late to push back at all. And even then, I'm not so certain. Like, I'll be honest. I feel like if someone assassinated me, I don't think the Democratic Party would, there'd probably be plenty of Democrats who would be throwing a party. There wouldn't be a ton of prominent Democrats who would be like, this is unacceptable. How do we get here? Because we all know how it got here. It's happening right now. It's happening right now in broad daylight, and no one is saying a damn thing. It's crazy.
All right, I want to show this. It's the same Hassan Piker who just last month pointed out to his viewers that he adorned his set with a photo of the attack.
You might have noticed some changes behind me. I finally framed the Cutie Cinderella newspaper from 9/11, the morning of 9/12, the newspaper right there. The newspaper that covered 9/11. It's now officially sitting behind me.
CJ, you're
like, I don't even understand what the point of that is. Is there, like, I guess they're trying to say like, oh no, he loves 9/11, that's why he put it behind him, like as though it's not one of the most significant news stories of all of our lives. They literally are like, no, if you're Muslim, you can't say anything about 9/11. You can't you can't even recognize its significance. I'm a media professional. Like, that part is actually the most insane. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, he's agitating us. He's agitating us. He's doing it on purpose. He's like flexing like I did 9/11 or some shit. I mean, that part is like 100% Islamophobia through and through. So if I catch any of you dumb motherfuckers in here if I catch anyone in here being like, well, don't you feel like you lean into as you said America deserved 9/11? Like, you are 100% caving to 1000% Islamophobic narrative making here. Like, that's it. Little F here. I don't know what's going on, but we're back.
Look, I want to put a fine point on this, and we haven't shown it. It's tough to show some of the things that he is known to have said because it's on video and it's him saying it. But there's so many expletives, you can't even bleep it all out. I've not been able to ask anybody about this like I would want to ask him. Why did you say this? He says, I'm a racist. We missed the good times when they were lynching blacks in this country.
Oh my God, come on, dude. Really? Really? Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. Jesus Christ. He's like, I shudder. I shudder.
Think about James Clyburn, Democrat in South Carolina, saying some things about his problems with this side of his party not looking like certain people in this country. Your last take.
You're exactly right. And black voters are not going for this. You look at what just happened in Wisconsin. I guess those people like Thanksgiving a little too much over there because Francesca Hong was defeated because of black voters. Black voters, young voters are not going for this socialist ride, rejecting them at the ballot box.
Yeah, Republicans should reach out and do what they can among that group, independents and everything. They've got time. CJ Pearson, great to see you. Thank you.
Jesus Christ, dude. Holy shit. That has to be an easy defamation case? No? Yeah, 100%. It's like, I've never seen this level of lying. Like, even with James Tallarico and stuff, like, they'll clip them out of context. They'll try to make it seem like they're more woke than they are or anything like that. But in this circumstance, it's like a very overt way to lie about something so heinous. Anyway, I'll explore the legal avenues here. It's getting completely out of control. You know what I mean? This is not like James Tallarico's vegan. Like, this is straight up saying that I love lynching and that I'm racist. Like, it's disgusting. It's totally disgusting. I will make them apologize for it, and I will force them a retraction, and we'll fucking celebrate it when it does happen. There's no shot. Yeah. But ultimately, like I said, this kind of culture war narratives, I don't think are going to work as effectively as these guys think they will, especially because we have to be everywhere all at once, and we have to remind people of what Republicans are saying, what Republicans are doing. So yeah, this unspeakably evil clear-cut defamation, and they're doing it because they can't compete against Abdul Hassan and the Dems in the realm of policy, 100%. John Stewart Pod talked about you again for like 2 minutes.
That's kind of the core of our show.
Can I give you another example
Please.
of that, John, which is very much top of news cycle right now? So there's this whole controversy about Hassan Piker and whether or not candidates should associate with him. And Abdul Sayed famously had a rally with him, so he's being targeted right now as like, how dare you associate with this guy who said all these terrible things? The clip that they usually point to is where he says we quote unquote deserve 9/11, where he's talking about the concept of blowback, and for which he has since apologized. Meanwhile, Abdul Sayed is running against a guy who literally was in Congress after 9/11, who authorized the Iraq War, who supported mass surveillance, who defended torture. But where that guy is fine, but associating with someone who said something that was edgy one time, that's what's out of bounds. That's what should be off limits. That, not just me, but I think most people, is insane.
Well, I'll do you one better. J.D. Vance's spiritual advisor, the preacher that J.D. Vance considers one of his sort of spiritual advisors.
We got to go on Jon Stewart's podcast, dude. Jon Stewart, save me. Only he can unite the libs in withstanding these attacks.
Let's talk a little bit about wokeness. Wokeness has come for Scott Jennings. Scott Jennings, the #1 blue-haired wokester on the CNN panels, has a lot to say about Abdul El Sayed. Yes, septum pierced. He has a lot to say about Abdul El Sayed and African Americans. Let's take a listen here.
On top of these candidates, in their own words, their surrogates are just as bad. Even worse,
Surrogates.
actually. We continue today our exploration of the radical socialist streamer Hassan Piker. Now, he's Abdul El Sayed's best friend, and he campaigns for him all the time. And African Americans out there, within the sound of my voice, need to listen up, and you must listen carefully. This is who socialists like Abdul El Sayed choose to keep for company. Just listen to this. Hassan Piker in Cut 8.
I don't give a what black people care about. Oh, black people care about this, black people care about that. Like, shut the up. That's not how politics works. Oh, well, Hassan, how dare you? Like it or not, black people care about this issue. It's like, it's such a stupid stance. Any other black folk want to engage in radical activist language in this chat? Suck my Yes, dude. It's because I'm racist. That's why. It's because I'm racist, dude. Go back to a better time when lynchings were happening. This is what I like as a black man. Are you always doing too much with black people? Leave them alone. I want to go back to lynching. Like, I get it, but relax. Man, shut the up, okay? You got me, okay? You got me, because I'm a racist person.
You just heard campaigns all the time for Abdul El Sayed in Michigan. He campaigns for other Democrats around the country. Every black voter in this country needs to listen to this. And if you look at these Democratic primaries, black voters have been voting against the socialists, only to be overruled in many cases by young, privileged white commies. Might these black voters find a home in the Republican Party this fall? Well, if Democratic campaigns are adopting the Piker plan of returning our country to lynchings, that just might happen.
Okay, all right.
Fucking absurd.
Can I start? Because I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Please.
Collecting myself.
As our resident wokester.
Yes. First of all, what Hassan was doing in those clips is technically anti-woke, right? It's dark woke. It's him making fun of people who are being ridiculous and policing things that he's said. Which is, if you paid any attention to Hassan Piker and you cared about presenting an accurate depiction of who he actually is, you would understand. Secondly, clipping people out of context is one of the most evil things that you can do on the internet, and also for your own cause, by the way. Like, if you really think that Hassan Piker is a racist, you should be able to find real clips of him actually being a racist instead of making fun of his opponents. And I really think some idiot at a Republican opposition research firm handed this to Scott Jennings on a silver platter, and because they haven't bothered to learn one or two things about what Hassan Piker actually does, they ran with it without checking it. And now Hassan Piker, as I'm sure you have this, Griffin, is in litigation for defamation because they were too stupid to actually do the legwork of figuring out what he really does on his show.
I don't think they're too stupid. I think they don't give a shit. They
Some
don't
of them
care. They
I
don't
think
care whether it's true or false. They have decided he's going to be a boogeyman. It doesn't matter whether there is a basis in reality or not. And so over tens of thousands of hours of content, they clip a few things that are completely misrepresent his views. Yeah. You think Hassan Piker wants black people to be lynched? That is fucking insane. And that is a monstrous thing to say about someone, especially someone whose entire politics are deeply committed to equality and to human rights and to anti-racism. To do that is so sick. I am really glad that Hassan is going after him, because this crosses a line beyond like good faith misinterpretation or, well, he did say that they deserve this goes way beyond that and is thoroughly disgusting. I don't care whether you love or hate Hassan Piker. Everyone, the way you did, Emily, should call it out. And, I don't think it's cute or funny. I think it's genuinely disgusting and monstrous and a fucking evil thing to do.
It's evil. And the only thing I wanted to add to that is that I spend a lot of time with people on the right. They genuinely don't understand Hassan Piker, and some of them is because they don't bother to, and some of them is because they're stupid, and some, you're right, Crystal, they just literally don't care. But they're going to care when they get a defamation lawsuit, and I think it's great that he's going after it, because he should.
Yeah, well, like Scarborough, when he did his whole, unhinged, spittle-laden rant against Hassan, is like, oh, I've never watched him. Then what are we doing here? And he also was lying and misrepresenting the comments that Hassan has made about October 7th in service of his, unhinged meltdown tirade.
They fundamentally don't understand streaming. They don't understand when people are on for 8 hours a day. They're going back and forth, being sarcastic with the people that are throwing questions at them. Anyway, I just co-sign the point that it's evil.
And Ryan, to you, I would ask, I've seen a lot of attacks on Hassan as he is connected to all these lefty progressive candidates. Clips like this are probably getting retweeted by like Neera Tanden and people like that. So is there some sort of crossover alliance happening between these Scott Jennings types and these more centrist establishment liberals?
There's some for sure. Maybe like that Michael LaRosa guy and those sorts of folks are pushing it if they still count as like even Democrats at this point. The question for whether or not it rises to defamation will be whether or not really it's an assertion of fact, or if it can count as this like over the top like hyperbole, because like and if you're somebody who is always spouting over the top hyperbole, you interestingly you kind of get more protection from courts.
Alex Jones used that defense. Yeah.
Right, because people are like, oh, like
but it didn't work.
He always says crazy stuff. Right, it did not work because he was making factual claims that were knowably false when it came to Sandy Hook. To me, Jennings is making a factual claim here.
He does at the end. He makes a factual claim about lynchings.
He's making a factual assertion that is factually untrue, and it is demonstrably untrue, and Jennings either knows or with a tiny bit of diligence would have known that it was untrue, which makes it malicious, which is the standard for defamation. I hate defamation cases because people overuse them to restrict people's ability to have speech, debate, and argue.
Right.
But there also needs to be some check on lying about on affirmatively lying about people in such a dangerous way. If you don't like what he says, like criticize what he says, but don't fabricate things that he never said and then condemn him for that in a way that then gets circulated and is like genuinely dangerous and also just corrosive of like the idea of public debate. So yeah, I hope he does go forward with this, and Jennings has to like think about like and people in the future have to say, because we're in this space, and Hassan has made this point that we have two standards for what's allowable in conversation. If you are supportive of Israel in general, you can say whatever you want about people who are critics of Israel. Doesn't have to be true, can be completely blatantly false. And that is the norm that is allowed within our current media structure. That's changing, and as it changes, like this could be one of the things that forces a change, where people like Scott Jennings, who was literally working for a radio station, radio network, whose chief strategy officer, Brad Parscale, is a registered agent for the Israeli government. Like that's the program he was on is under the guidance of an Israeli agent. And if those folks have to check themselves a little bit and think, oh wait, I actually have to pay attention to what I'm saying here, and it has to have some basis in fact or truth, then I think that's a good thing, and we have to get to that place. Because this world where one side can just lie all the time and the other side says true things and gets raked over the coals for it is unsustainable.
Well, but I just want to say on that point, this is why Griffin's opening joke about woke Scott Jennings is a really good one, because Scott Jennings would have complained for years about people on college campuses, like professors on college campuses, people with some legitimate power, saying whatever the hell they want to say about accusing others of racism or whatever it is. And that's a really serious accusation. And the reason, then he's like flipping around and doing the exact same thing. And in a way that is so cynical. It's just like completely undermines any credibility that anyone ever wanted to have. If he wants to be a critic of the corporate media, this undermines your credibility. Say that no Americans trust media, this undermines your credibility. Like, how can you say that again? And that's again why it's also important for people on the right to understand what Hassan Piker does, which is reject a lot of the woke pieties that were foisted by, in some cases, the Hillary Clintons of the world onto the left. And so if you want to make an argument against Hassan Piker, you sure as hell better understand what he's actually doing, which was rejecting, in many cases, political correctness from those very clips that he showed as some example of him calling for lynchings. Like, it is just based on a willful misunderstanding. In some cases, Crystal, I think you're totally correct. It is cynical. They don't care. But again, a defamation lawsuit does make you, to Ryan's point, have to think about it and exert a modicum of care.
Yeah, and I'll just say to the liberals who think this is great, or they're going to quietly be happy about it because they want to make Hassan a boogeyman just as much as the right does, if not more, because it's more directly existential to them right now in their grip on the party. Like, if you think the right views you any differently, you are so delusional. They think you're all communists. They think you're all socialists. They think you're all, most importantly, obstacles to their own power. They will not hesitate to use these very same disgusting, shameful tactics against you. So get it together. Let's focus, people. Let's focus on what is, more important here. And, and again, this shouldn't be a left-right thing, because this could literally be done to absolutely everyone, which is why I've defended many people that I vociferously disagree with when they have been smeared or canceled and things have been done to them that I thought were, unfair and unjust.
Well, speaking of people who are focused, Jill Biden's ex-staffer Michael LaRosa, former guest on this program, is continuing the tirade against AES and seems tangentially also related to Hassan. Let's take a listen to him on Fox News.
I want the Democrats to win. I think they're going to win the Senate. I think they're going to win the House. I want Chuck Schumer and Brian Schatz to be the next majority leaders. I want to do it without them. And that can be done. But this isn't what I signed up for. Totenkopf and SS and defending it, and then defending Hassan Piker is just not the leader of my party. And it's okay for Democrats to say that. My old boss, Chris Matthews, was on TV this morning saying Democrats are politicians, which is sometimes standing up to your friends.
Wow. Okay, a few
I like
things
how it
here.
says now solar eclipse in Europe on the screen.
Quite an eclipse. Don't look directly at LaRosa. You need some protective eyewear for that. So yeah, two things to flag here. He says the Totenkopf for AES. The Totenkopf tattoo is moving. It's shifting candidates. It's now apparently on Abdul. It's
the sisterhood of the traveling
Totenkopf. Yes, sister. So that's very interesting.
Everyone.
Watch out. And then also, I think we can't neglect to mention who LaRosa is currently working for, Ryan. Isn't he currently working as a consultant for a Trump-friendly gentleman?
Yeah, Ballard. Right. Their clients include Saudi Arabia, Haftar, who is a warlord in Libya. They had TikTok. He and LaRosa was actually on that account, but he got fired in April. He claims on Twitter that happens all the time. Contracts expire. Yes, they kept contracts with all their other lobbying firms. So I think the pieces are starting to come together a little bit. Like in April, he loses this $50,000 a month TikTok contract. He's been on an absolute rampage. Ellison, now the owner of TikTok, I think is trying to show his value to these Trump people that he works for. And so I think that has given him an extra level of motivation to just go out and go on these screeds. But it would be nice if news organizations would say, we're now joined by a representative of a Libyan warlord and Saudi Arabia to tell us what he thinks about
Hamas Piker.
To opine on morality.
But Crystal, we have a math guy later, but I have a math question for you now. He says that he wants to take the Senate without AES. What's the math like on that?
Very
we
tough.
Take the Senate, but we don't have Abdul in the Senate.
Just as it is theoretically possible for a woman to be good at math, it is also theoretically possible for Democrats to win the Senate without Abdul winning Michigan, but highly unlikely.
Problems. Yes.
Highly
I love
unlikely.
that people might just see this clip and not the callback reference from the earlier part of the episode.
Scott Jennings is going to be posting this later today, Em.
You're right. No, but that's exactly that's the
ladies,
equivalent.
listen up to what Crystal thinks of you. Yeah.
Yes, but that's the equivalent. That's exactly
literally.
the equivalent.
Literally.
And also the irony being that the chance
clear,
that Griff
I
and
do
I are the
think
two
that.
worst at math on this call are
I
it's pretty high.
promise you, you're not. Crystal's probably very good at math. I am not.
I mean, I'm serviceable. I'm not. I wouldn't say very good. I'm serviceable. I was competent.
All right.
At
Well,
a high school level.
Not me.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show, ad-free, and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show. Help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.
Welcome to Pod Save America. I'm John Favreau.
I'm Dan Pfeiffer.
On today's show, Donald Trump catches a ride on a catering truck to escape the Iranians who are trying to kill him and or cause him to lose the midterms, whichever comes first. We'll also talk about how your tax dollars are being used to buy brand new gloves for ICE agents that can deliver an electric shock to anyone they touch. That is true. Also a wild story about DHS spying on everyone from labor unions and climate groups to random citizens just because they can. Then, with the last of the major contested primaries behind us in Wisconsin and Minnesota, we'll talk about why the polling was so far off and why that won't stop us from speculating about November. Finally, we'll bid a fond farewell to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt and compare our rankings of who we think is most likely to get the job next. Can't wait to hear your list, Dan.
It's really outside the box.
I like that. One quick note before we start. Friends of the Pod tickets for this year's Crooked Con are going fast. They're going even faster than last time I said they were going fast.
I mean, just by the time you hear this, they could be gone.
You're going to want to go to crookedcon.com to grab yours if you haven't already. And of course, if you're not yet a subscriber, discounted CrookedCon tickets, that's just one of many reasons to become a subscriber. You'll also get ad-free episodes of all your favorite Crooked shows, plus subscriber-only shows like Polar Coaster with Dan Pfeiffer.
That's the main reason to do it.
That is the main
for
reason.
many people.
We also have a secret episode of Pod Save America, an extra episode that we do behind the paywall, so you can check that out as well. Terminally online, very funny, and all of our great Substack newsletters, and you get to be supporting proudly pro-democracy independent media. So, what are you waiting for? Head to crooked.com/friends to join today. All right. They're starting to use the Q word to describe Trump's disastrous war in Iran. You know what the Q word is, Dan?
There were all kinds of jokes I was going to make, but none of them seem to work, so I'm just going to go with the right answer. Is it quagmire?
It is. That's the headline and one of the most read Politico stories of the week. The Iran war is a whole new level of quagmire for the U.S. Both Trump and the Iranians are claiming that they're in control of the Strait of Hormuz, which can't be true. The strait remains functionally closed. I think only 14 vessels went through yesterday. Gas prices are higher than they have ever been at this time of year in the United States, ever in history. The war also continues to deplete our military. The Washington Post reports that we've lost about a quarter of our supply of Reaper drones. We're using up our limited supplies of both Patriot and Tomahawk missiles. And some of our service members have been deployed so long that on the USS Abraham Lincoln, which is an aircraft carrier that's been in the Middle East since November, several of the 5,000 sailors and Marines on board have tried to jump overboard due to the stress and horrible conditions. That's according to both the Military Times and Stars and Stripes. But nothing better illustrates just how badly Trump is getting his ass kicked by the Iranians than the story of how our president was forced to hide in a catering truck and board a secret plane to escape a potential assassination threat involving Iranian proxies in Turkey launching surface-to-air missiles at Air Force One. When Trump was asked why it was too dangerous for him to fly on Air Force One, but not any of the reporters and White House officials who weren't told they were flying home on a potential target, the president said the dumbest thing possible.
I think actually the plane that I flew on was at greater risk. I think it was at greater risk because that would be the plane I think that they would be more likely to go for.
Fucking idiot. Yeah, they'd be more likely to go for the plane you were on, of course, which is why they tried to put you on another plane that they didn't know about, you fucking moron.
Yes.
I don't know why I say that in such a shocked way, but it's just like new levels of Trump being a dipshit. Yeah, what did you make of the whole, the catering cart caper
On one hand, it is very, very funny that he hid in a catering cart, that he flew home on a secret plane, that he handpicked the people who would survive with him, like Pete Hegseth and the woman who prints all of his documents. But he sent
and Dan Scavino, his former caddy.
And Dan Scavino, but then he sent Marco Rubio to die with the press.
And Marco Rubio was the only one on that other plane who knew what was happening. Scott Bessent was with Marco Rubio, none the wiser.
And there's no protocol here for the reasons. Like maybe Hegseth, you could possibly fabricate some reason, but the fact that he picked Dan Scavino and Natalie Harp, once again, the woman who follows him around and prints his documents for him, were the ones who got seats in the life raft. And Marco Rubio didn't. This should be a real tell to Marco Rubio. Also, how do you even process information? You get looped in and you're like, which way to Trump's plane? They're like, you didn't make the cut.
I mean, well, or what were they? Where did they think Trump was?
I mean, they just assumed he was in his cabin, I assume.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know that's what the reporters thought, but I was wondering about Scott Bessent. He's just sitting there, has no idea, with his buddy Marco Rubio, has no idea he's just a sitting duck. I
mean, normally you would see the president walk up. Well, I guess they saw him walk up the steps, and there were plenty of times we've been on the plane when we used to fly on it, where the president would just be in their cabin, and we would be seated where we would sit, just not in his cabin. You would have no idea until the plane landed, and he did not walk down the front steps.
Who do you think was making it in the secret plane with Barack Obama? Definitely wasn't me.
I don't know. It might have been you.
Oh, quick, I need a speech.
Well, how's we would have done it by actual protocol and not by who he likes most? There is like a more serious thing to this, which is
that Iranian proxies in Turkey were potentially going to take down Air Force One. Yeah, that's a...
Well, I mean, that. But there's something, like, this probably sounds really quaint in, like, the dystopian, fucked up world we live in, but there is just something terrible about the fact that the president lied to the press, lied to the country to hide a threat to himself. No one knew where he was. That plane could have landed anywhere in the world and no one would have ever known. And the only reason we know about this now is because the Washington Post did some really great reporting. Like, there is a world where obviously his security, the president's security, whether it's Trump or anyone else, comes first. So I understand the ruse. I don't really understand why you would take Air Force One off. You would just fly the other plane that they don't think he's on.
Right. It definitely seemed like there was a need to protect Trump, even if it was... Now, we should say, too, since this story was first reported, there's been more reporting that suggests that this intel about a potential assassination plot came from Israel, from the Israeli government, and then the CIA, our CIA, judged it as low confidence, meaning they didn't think it was... They didn't think it was like a serious threat, but clearly they thought it was serious enough to put the president in a catering cart and send him on a separate plane.
It's probably not surprising that Israel's the one who told this to Trump, because if you read Regime Change, the Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan book, like one of the themes in there, and Maggie talks about this in an interview with Ezra Klein a few weeks ago, is that Trump is singularly obsessed with the idea that Iran wants to kill him. And so you tell Trump Iran wants to kill you, at the same time you're trying to keep Trump fully focused on the war in Iran. Right. It's not a bad idea.
Right, because Bibi did not want him to reach any kind of peace agreement, clearly. So, I thought it was, so it's wild to me that, like, it's one thing to protect the president. It's another thing to unnecessarily put the rest of the people on Air Force One in danger.
You just hold Air Force One on the ground, you take the president, let him fly on this other plane no one knows what is.
Right.
And then after he lands, you say, Trump has landed, the Iranians know he's not on the plane, then you fly the other plane home.
Right. And we're not in the CIA. We're not in Secret Service, the CIA. We could figure that out.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's also crazy they didn't tell anyone afterwards. Like, that's also nuts.
Yes, thank you. That is the biggest problem. Like, you could do this whole thing, and then once everyone lands, be like, oh, by the way, this happened, and we couldn't tell you at the time, and whatever. But, like, it's wild that it had to be broken by the Washington Post, and that the administration subpoenaed New York Times reporters for the leak about them not taking the new Qatari Force One home because it didn't have, like, the right defensive maneuver capabilities that they might need if proxies on the ground were shooting surface-to-air missiles at Air Force One.
Like, this is entirely a hypothetical. I just want to point this out there. But in a world in which, is right. In a world in which the president can get on a secret plane without the press and have no one know where he is, that plane could land anywhere. It could land on Epstein Island, theoretically.
Oh my God. Well, you're really just looking for a viral clip, aren't you?
I do not want a viral clip. I do not want this posted. I do not tell the social media. I do not want this posted. I'm making a point just to our listeners, the people who tune into this podcast, that I'm just using the extreme example to make a point that when the press is not with the president can do lots of things we don't know what are. He could have stopped in UAE and cut a crypto deal.
He could have stopped in Moscow to hang out with his friend Vladimir Putin.
He could have picked up the P-tape.
He could have picked up the P-tape, right? Yeah.
All these things were possible because he broke protocol.
Okay. Well, bigger picture, there's new reporting this week that Iran is tracking Trump's political problems very closely. I guess they're looking at the RCP average, so the silver bulletin, the Trump approval rating, and they're looking to continue pushing negotiations far off past November, so that Trump pays a maximum price in the midterms. It seems like if we're just going by political strategy, it does seem like a smart strategy on Iran's behalf, no? On Iran's part.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that they are correct to understand that Trump has very, very little leverage during election season, because the things that would allow the sort of military maneuvers that would allow him to gain an upper hand over the Strait, over Iran, would raise gas prices in a way which would hurt his party in the midterms. So they figured that out. Now, I think the question for Iran is, what happens when Trump doesn't, and no one Trump cares about, has to face the voters for 2 years? Like, if you're counting on Democrats to pass a war powers resolution to stop the war, I don't think they're getting to a veto-proof majority of that.
No.
Could a Democratic Congress make it harder to fund the war? Possibly. But Trump may feel like this is bad. I'm going to stipulate this is bad. But it's not clear to me that it's not clear to me, and maybe it probably should be clear to the Iranians, what Trump does after the midterms.
Well, let's talk about what's after the midterms. It is the beginning of the 2028 presidential race, and you've got presumably J.D. Vance, who wants to be president, maybe Marco Rubio, maybe both of them together. And so there is an incentive at that point for the administration to finally give Iranians what they want to get this off the table, so that they don't
win the war.
Or win. Well, how are they going to do that?
Well, I mean, that's ultimately what Iran is trying to forestall right now, is more. Like, not that I think any of these things are going to happen per se, but like Trump taking Karg Island, for instance, one of the things that was on the table earlier, doesn't happen in the midterms. Could that happen in 2027? Maybe. Trump launching all the other bombing. Yeah. Like those sorts of things. Like right now, Trump won't use the military stick against Iran to the extent he has the capacity to do so because of gas prices in the election. In the calendar year of 2027, he relieved of that political, the restraining nature of politics, potentially. So the thing is, I don't know, and Iran doesn't know either. So like, this works in the short term. What happens in the medium and long term, who the hell knows?
Yeah. Horrible story though about the
Jesus Christ,
the USS Lincoln and all those soldiers, and the families have been describing like moldy showers and broken toilets and shortages of hot water and food. They've been trying to like figure this out. The sailors and Marines have been sending messages like and then of course someone asked Pete Hegseth today about it, and he's like, "Oh, it's all overblown. I respect all these guys. They're great. They're doing a great job." It always makes me feel bad that we talk about the war purely in terms of gas prices and oil prices because of the effect that it's having on politics here. But it's also like there's a lot of fucking U.S. forces deployed in the Middle East who are in harm's way and who are also just have been away from their families forever. And for what? For what?
And the military did not prepare for this, hence the conditions on the ships.
Yeah.
Because they never believed, because they gave this zero thought that many, many months later they'd still be in a conflict with Iran.
Missile stockpile, estimates are that it won't recover until 2030. That's a whole nother thing. Like, God forbid someone else attacks us, there's another war. Like, we're not gonna be ready at all because we have now depleted all of our military. We've sent soldiers for long deployments. We don't have missiles and drones and all that kind of, all those capabilities. Because of this stupid fucking war. It is I kind of think that this is, what do you think about like Democrats, like how they handle this over the next couple months between now and the midterms? Because to me, it seems like it is the main issue, and it's not your usual. It's like it combines both forever wars, which people hate, and it's causing high prices, which people hate. So it's like, I feel like you could run the whole campaign about Trump's disastrous war and what it's doing to prices and all that.
Yeah, it should be the centerpiece of the campaign. It's obviously it's best when tied to affordability and gas prices, and that, you know, like one of the messages I've seen tested is they told us there wasn't enough money for healthcare and food assistance, but now we have billions of dollars for bombs in the Middle East and for wars in the Middle East. Like, that tests very well.
Yep.
It is, so I think absolutely Democrats should have no fear. There's a lot of sort of anxiety at the outset of this, that what if we get on the wrong side of the conflict, and we must begin every statement with a long throat clearing about how bad the morals of Iran are. We are past that. This is an incredibly unpopular war. It goes at affordability. It goes at Trump's incompetence. It goes at Trump's weakness. It goes to the chaos of his leadership style. And I think really importantly, it goes to the broken promises. And when you see this in both focus groups and then in polling of people who voted for Trump, who are now disapprove of him, one of the top things that comes up is that he broke his promises. And one of those big promises is the war, which is tied to the other big promise, which is lowering prices.
Right.
Today's presenting sponsor is Simply Safe Home Security. We all promise to digital detox on August vacation, but you can't actually unplug if you're anxiously checking your security camera feeds when you're poolside. Simply Safe lets you put the phone down because you know live agents are helping to watch the perimeter. Unlike traditional security systems that only alert you after a break-in is already underway, Simply Safe is designed to help stop intruders before they get inside. Smart AI-powered outdoor cameras detect suspicious activity at the perimeter and alert live US-based agents to step in. Simply Safe's agents assess the threat, intervene through the outdoor camera to scare off trespassers, and call for 911 dispatch. Our CEO recently had a Simply Safe system installed in her home. The installation was quick and easy, and the system was up and running in no time. All of the components have worked smoothly. The app is easy to use. It gives the family total peace of mind to see who's dropping by, or you can easily chat with visitors through the camera even when you're away. Simply Safe has been protecting the world for 20 years. Simply Safe has been protecting your world for 20 years. Celebrate their anniversary with us and save 60% on your new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/crooked. That's 60% off at simplysafe.com/crooked. Plus, when you order, write in our show name in the How Did You Hear About Us survey to let them know we sent you. Don't forget, there's no safe like Simply Safe.
Today's show is sponsored by Strawberry.me. Have you ever written a review about a product or service you've used? It takes an extraordinary experience, either overwhelmingly positive or deeply disappointing, for someone to take the time to write a review. Strawberry.me's positive reviews speak for themselves, proving why professionals rely on the platform for certified career coaching. Not just a few reviews, there are literally hundreds of them at strawberry.me/reviews, all unfiltered and glowing. Here's a sample review from a Strawberry.me client. Krista is an incredible, thoughtful, positive coach. She helped me build my confidence and voice back up, revise my resume, navigate an industry change, and become more intentional in my job search. Highly recommend. Review after review tells the same story. My coach was amazing. The experience was transformative, and I landed a new job within weeks. When so many people take the time to leave positive reviews, it is clear the product is something special. So if you're feeling stuck at work, do what tens of thousands of people have already done. Go to strawberry.me/crooked and claim 50% off your first coaching session. That's strawberry.me/crooked. Speaking of unpopular, we haven't checked in on ICE in a while, and it won't shock you to hear that the news is really bad.
Clever.
Here's what will shock you.
I don't know much.
Apologize for that. That's just
do the joke and then apologize.
The new electric gloves ICE plans to spend $20 million on, so that agents can deliver a painful jolt to whoever they touch, rendering the person powerless to move or even stand. And now, Tom Homan, he was on Fox talking about this as This is excellent. We don't want to shoot everyone. So this is supposed to be de-escalation. I hope you find it useful. This is a de-escalation, right? Here's a compilation of the gloves being put to use from some of the videos that were circulating on Twitter.
I scream like a little girl and see myself. Go back to the club.
Go give him your hand. You're trying to get his hands out. Stop resisting. Put your hands out. Put your hands out. Thank you. Damn, you turned around.
Fucking insane.
A bunch of men just shocking each other for fun.
I know, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a whole separate conversation. The manual, this company that makes the product that they put out, the manual says no more than 2 gloves on one person, generally no more than 15 seconds, never against verbal defiance, never as punishment, and not on the elderly, children, pregnant women, or people with serious disabilities. Guess what ICE has done already? Like, violated all of those things with how it has handled people before the gloves, and the people that it has assaulted, injured, detained. And so, I don't know. I think this is fucking awful.
Well, I mean, it's just so ridiculous that Tom Homan's, it's a binary choice. Well, look, we have only 2 options. We can kill them in the street with our guns, or we can electrocute them. Those are the only 2 things, guys. You pick. You choose. Electrocution or bullets.
Also, this is one that leaves not a lot of evidence. And so, the idea that ICE is just going to go in the streets, if they see someone who they don't like what they said, they, sort of made fun of ICE or criticized them, whatever, they can just walk over and just put hands on them and shock them. And then, no one's going to know, I mean, whose word against whose word. I mean, it's the potential for abuse on this one is vast.
Yes, that is very, very true. And as Elijah pointed out at a production meeting today, it's only a matter of time till one of these ICE guys goes pee with the gloves on.
In this administration, that will almost certainly happen.
Yes, it's guaranteed.
And also with the kind of people they're recruiting now at ICE,
yes,
which is people who meet no standard whatsoever.
Yes.
Meanwhile, there's been a new uptick in terrifying videos of people being confronted by ICE agents. On Monday, a masked agent pointed a gun at a U.S. citizen named Carolina Molina at a shopping center in Virginia. ICE and DHS accused her of trying to run them over with her car, an assertion it's not at all backed up by the video evidence. Afterwards, Molina told the Washington Post that it felt like a Renee Good situation. Here's some of that scene, as well as other recent ICE confrontations that are making the rounds.
You almost ran us over.
I didn't almost
You
run
almost ran us over.
You're
Stop
so
playing.
full of shit.
Stop playing.
You are full of shit.
All right? You're not funny.
You're not funny.
I will arrest you. Keep it up.
I'm a legal citizen.
Keep it up. I don't care.
Oh my goodness.
I'll see at the car, lock you up.
The Domingo family self-recording the tense moments when Border Patrol pulled them over Sunday afternoon. The couple complying with the officer's orders, then hugging during this emotional goodbye when separated from their 5 children and detained.
I know there's not a lot of new things to say about this because it's just horrific, but I think it is worth noting that
absolute fucking monsters.
Happening. It is happening all over the place. ICE has not de-escalated at all. They are still trying to meet Stephen Miller's dumb fucking quotas. Mark Wayne Mullen, the new DHS secretary, is already in trouble with MAGA activists and the base. Laura Loomer and Steve Bannon already have said he should be fired because, he's not detaining and arresting and deporting enough people. So he's already feeling pressure to be even more aggressive in order to keep his job. So this is all happening still.
Yeah, it's just the only thing that's changed is they're not sending out a press release before they do it.
Right.
They're not inviting the MAGA influencers along for it. They're not inviting the Fox News crews. They're just doing it and hoping no one videotapes them when it happens.
Did you see? I heard Tim Miller talk about this on the Bulwark Pod. The letter in The Nation that this woman wrote. She is this Iranian family. They're have green cards, legal residents. A couple of professors. Yes. Yeah, they're the husband and wife are professors, and then they have a child as well. And because the husband is the son of a woman who was an Iranian official during the hostage crisis. I believe she was the spokesperson during the hostage crisis in 1979. And her son and his family moved to the United States, became college professors, had a kid, are permanent legal residents. And because like people online decided to make an issue of their association with Iran, then the State Department just decided to, on their own, revoke their visas. They picked up the husband. They also picked up the wife and the child, and they separated them, and they have shipped them to Texas, where they've been in detention facilities for
Good to see you
the
again.
last 4
Is that
months.
my beautiful shipment? You
4
were
months.
right about this one.
With like, just holding them hostage for
So
no
I've
reason,
heard.
no due process,
Now I shall
not even
excuse
deporting
myself.
them, not doing anything, just
So,
jailing
what did you
them
learn about
just
CM
because
Station
of an
RC1?
association, a family member, because some fucking idiot online decided to call them out.
It's terrible. It's just the whole thing is so just gross and morally bankrupt.
Lucas must be dead.
I
Were
don't,
there
like-
any survivors?
I get that this won't be, you know, I think when Minnesota is happening, we probably
Seeking ecliptic
thought
on
maybe
a
this would be
station
big
with
issue in the
nothing but
midterms.
mine
I'm guessing
corporations.
it will
now,
not be as big
I
of an
also
issue in
had
the
a
midterms.
report that you were spotted
But
at.
is the best play here the Democrats have to just hope we get Congress back, be able to conduct some kind of oversight over ICE?
I figured it was
hearings,
related.
subpoena
And we're-
officials and documents, and then just change everything if
So,
a Democratic president wins.
It sounds like,
it
Lucas.
doesn't.
I'll make
what
sure
else can people
Yuko's
do?
team
So
between
you're
hiring
right that this is not
ecliptic
going to be
and
the biggest issue in the
unauthorized human
midterms,
trials.
and it probably shouldn't be.
We have
the
enough
voters
to
we
take
need
Lucas
care about
down
immigration.
for
They absolutely
good.
do, but it's not their top
with
issue.
the Rothschild secure,
but
almost time
it's not as
for us to
complicated as I
make
think a
our
lot of
move.
people make it. Trump is 11 points underwater on immigration right now. This is not an issue of strength for him. He doesn't win by
Not
shifting
long,
the
according to
issue
her.
terrain to immigration.
I
It doesn't
believe
help
it's
him.
just a matter of
The
creating-
videos like this hurt him. When you track his approval rating drops since 2025, some of the biggest ones happened during
Head up to the
first the
executive floor
Kilmer
and
Rigo
speak to-
Garcia
I've called a
CCOT
meeting,
stuff
and
in the
I
spring of
expect
2025, and then after the killings of Alex Preddy and Renee Good in January of 2026. So it matters when these things come up. So no one should shy away from talking about it. Absolutely not. It's also worth pointing out to voters that, once again, not only is ICE bad, but we gave ICE $700 billion, and we paid for it by cutting healthcare and food assistance. Like, that's what the priority is.
People don't like that.
But when so let's say we get a majority, right? And we'll talk about the prospects for that later in the show. People should be realistic. We cannot realistically abolish ICE, but we can hold hearings.
Keep out of my way, and I'll keep out of yours.
You know, shine a light on this. There can be accountability. We also have, if we have the House and the Senate, but even if we have just the House, we have real leverage in budget negotiations if Democrats are willing to use it.
So, the one challenge on that one is because they passed so much ICE funding through reconciliation, like, they could shut down the government. Like, no, we went through this, right? Like, the Democrats could theoretically shut down the government if we control Congress again, or hold up the whole budget over ICE funding. But because they have so much funding left over from reconciliation, like, they can still do everything they want to do.
Yes, I mean, we're right back in the same spot, but you have a couple options here. One is you can take, I hate to use this terminology, but you can take a different hostage, and the ransom is changes in ICE. Other things Trump's want,
right?
You cannot get them. You can shut down the whole government over it. You can put real pressure on them. Once again, ICE has money. Like, there is a limit to what you can do here up until the moment you have a trifecta where if we have a trifecta, you can do the following things. One, you can take that money and redirect it elsewhere. You could, with a trifecta, abolish ICE in some way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah, yeah. If we have a Democratic president,
yeah, we do all those things. But yes,
but for the next anything outside of right now, shut down the government over ICE, but like you said, take a different hostage, or probably the most likely path is to hold all kinds of hearings and oversight.
And you can get, I mean, which will hopefully sort of till the ground for the battles to come when you have the trifecta. But you can, like, some of the policy changes we did not get in this time, you can make another run at in 2027, 2028.
I also think it's worth saying that just from we talk about politics and campaigns and what's most likely to help win an election, but when these stories are in the news and when public officials or their local state put the stories, like, the politics are bad for the Trump administration. Usually when they are when Donald Trump's approval rating is in the shitter, he turns to immigration to try to get his mojo back. And it is telling that they have chosen democratic, socialist, communist threat over immigration this time around because they just went through a cycle back, I don't know when it was, earlier this year, last year, when their immigration agenda was underwater and became pretty unpopular. Not as unpopular as how he handles cost of living or jobs or the Iran war, but still unpopular.
Yeah, it's not an advantage for him anymore, which is a huge change in the political firmament.
Yeah. All right, this week's Democratic primaries were one of the last contests before the midterms. A week after Abdul El-Sayed defeated the establishment-backed Haley Stevens by just under a point in the Michigan Senate primary, the more moderate David Crowley eked out an upset over Democratic Socialist Francesca Hahn in the Wisconsin gubernatorial primary. In Minnesota, the more progressive Governor Peggy Flanagan beat Congresswoman Angie Craig by 20 points. In Connecticut, the Senate Fisher Cronin knocked off 78-year-old Congressman John Larson, making Larson the 7th House Democrat to lose a primary this year and the 5th past his retirement age. 2026 is now tied with 2012 as the worst year for Democratic incumbents in primaries this century. When you step back and squint at all the primary results this year, do they tell to you any kind of cohesive story about Democratic voters in the Democratic Party?
It's complicated, but yes. If you look at all the results, all the ones we've had, all of the DSA wins, the incumbents who got elected, the incumbents who got defeated, I think you can take a couple things from this. One, Democrats are 2, Democrats are incredibly skeptical and distrustful of their own leaders, their own institutions, and the way the party has done politics in the past. Democrats are incredibly fired up about voting. They are turning out in huge numbers. Like in Wisconsin, this statistic blew me away. Nearly 250,000 more people voted in this Wisconsin primary than in 2018, the year of the Big Blue Wave.
I know.
When I think you look at all this, it's sort of belies the tries to jam this through. DSA versus centrists. Wisconsin and Michigan races combined 18,000 votes between the two of them. It's gone a different way. It would have been like DSA is dead. Long live the moderates. Or like, go comrade. The socialists have won. And it's all more complicated. Voters looked at it and made decisions, and there were some local factors in all of them. I think the one thing that is true is that voters are looking for fresh faces, and those fresh faces are often younger. And we saw that in all the incumbents you mentioned. It is a fresh face who is voted, and almost always a younger one. And and I think that like the Democratic voters are done with the gerontocracy.
To your point about how many more voters are participating in this year's primaries versus 2018, or at least in Wisconsin, is part of that people who usually just vote in a general election but not a primary are now voting in a primary? I thought I saw somewhere that like just the interest is so high that even a lot of normie Democrats, quote unquote, who usually just turn out in a general but not a primary, are now like interested enough and engaged enough that they want to participate in the primary.
Yes, that's definitely happening. Wisconsin is particularly impressive. You have to run up because Wisconsin is one of the highest turnout states in the country.
Right.
But yeah, I think the stakes of these primaries feel very high to people because I think there is a real question about where our party is going, and people want to have a say in that. So they are turning out, and it felt that way in Wisconsin, felt that way in Michigan, in these races. And certainly, I think that to people in New York saying in those races, Colorado, it felt that way. Our party's going to go in 2 ways, and I want to have a say in which way it goes because the direction we choose is going to matter not just in 2026, but in 2028 and beyond.
Odds in America is brought to you by Sundays. Is your dog a picky eater? It's surprisingly stressful. You wish we could tell you the problem. Maybe if they keep your dog would say they know the difference between processed ground pellets and real food. Sunday starts with 80% plus all natural meats that add super foods like kale, ginger, blueberries. No filler, no nutritional blends, no chemicals, just simple complete nutrition. And even if your dog doesn't know why you don't like their food because they're a dog that would eat cheese out of a diaper, you still want them to have good quality food as well. And Sunday's just launched a brand new fish recipe. It's made with 80% whole and fish, including eco-friendly invasive invasive carp? Is this carp that was jumping into people's boats in Michigan? I love it.
Transferring credits
Plus,
now.
it's packed with omega-3 fatty acids that help support healthy skins, shiny coats, joints, and brain function. It's complete and balanced nutrition for all life stages. I sprinkle it on my own dinner. Share your dog's experience with its food. They loved it. I think it's hard to tell. She ate it. She's a dog.
Leo loves it.
Leo loves Sundays for dogs. Eats it right down.
Boy, does his coat look shinier.
Shiny as hell. Sort of reflect to the light, like it's block your eyes. Make the switch to Sundays. Go right now to sundaysfordogs.com/crooked to get 50% off your first order, or you can use the code crooked at checkout. That's 50% off your first order at sundaysfordogs.com/crooked. Sundaysfordogs.com/crooked. Use code crooked.
Personal. Someone going just one extra step can be huge. Like when my doctor takes the time to call me with test results instead of sending them electronically.
Yeah. You're gay. This just came in, John. You're gay.
Then he hangs up. It makes me feel like a human being again. If you're hiring, great candidates can also go the extra step and tell you why they're interested in your job on ZipRecruiter. So they stand out from the others in the pool. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/crooked. ZipRecruiter's new feature shows you the most interested, qualified candidates first, so you meet the right people faster. Their powerful matching technology finds qualified candidates quickly. Candidates tell you in their own words why they're interested in your job. We've used ZipRecruiter here at Crooked.
You bet we have.
Boy, do those interested, qualified candidates jump to the front.
You bet they do. It really helps.
Try ZipRecruiter and meet great candidates who will go the extra step for your job. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free today at ZipRecruiter.com/crooked. That's ZipRecruiter.com/crooked. ZipRecruiter, meet your match on ZipRecruiter. So on that note, the primary results have inevitably led to another round of electability discourse. Easily one of the top 5 discourses in the Democratic Party.
What else is on the list?
Let's see.
Motivation versus persuasion.
Motivation versus persuasion. Left versus center left.
Yeah.
Let's see. Orange man bad is the best political strategy.
Discourse or yeah. Okay. How much should we focus on Trump?
Right. Wokeness. That's kind of a relatively new one. I don't know. I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here. How are Democratic voters judging which candidate is more electable here in 2026 based on everything that you have seen thus far this year?
I think, like the pundits, the voters don't know who's more electable, and that is showing up at these races as people are making different choices. What I think is interesting is electability. There's been this big discussion, like in the Trump era, Democratic voters care a lot about electability, and that is true. But it's also always been true, and it is also an axiomatic thing, which is do you want someone who can win? Do you want someone who is less likely to win but agrees with you? People always pick the one who's even look at even before Trump in 2004, when the Democratic primary that you were working on was going forward, people all of a sudden were like, wait a minute. We're going to run the anti-war governor of Vermont against George W. Bush. That's not a good idea. And then they immediately shifted to John Kerry, the war hero. Didn't work out great, but you understand the thinking that got them there. In 2020, electability drove Biden's nomination. 6 in 10 voters in a Gallup poll at that time said they'd rather have someone who was more likely to beat Trump than someone who they agreed with on policy issues. In the exit polls of the primary states, 6 in 10 voters in most cases said electability was their top issue. People care about it. What is different now, and I believe you see this in both Wisconsin and Michigan, is that the voters no longer trust the Democratic Party establishment and the experts to tell them who is most electable, and they have to see it with their own eyes and make their own judgment. Because you have in Michigan...
Unless it's Tony Evers.
Well, I mean, I think we can debate Tony Evers. Tony Evers obviously played a huge role in this, but this is the difference between Michigan and Wisconsin is all of the voices were saying Abdul is less electable. Voters looked at that race, they looked at him. It was not patently obvious to him, to enough of them, that he was less electable than Haley Stevens. Wisconsin, Evers made electability the #1 issue down the stretch by announcing that he thought Hong could not win or was unlikely to win if she was the nominee. But then Hong went on a media tour where she did not acquit herself great and sort of amplify the questions that Evers had raised, and so voters looked at that. I think if Evers had said she can't win and then she had done fine, they probably would have still picked Hong. But because of that, enough of people changed their mind in the final days to do it. And then in Minnesota, where Angie Craig made electability the centerpiece of her issue, no one thought we would lose that seat, so they didn't care.
I think that's a really important point that's getting lost in the Minnesota example, because I think it sort of, like, I think a lot of voters, especially like highly engaged voters, pay attention to this, who are the voters that vote in primaries. They try to make rational decisions about who they think is going to win the race, right? And if you're in a state like Minnesota, where it just seems like the Democrat is going to win, and now Minnesota's not like a deep blue state, but you could make a good argument that Angie Craig or Peggy Flanagan, whoever won that nomination, was going to was going to be a head favorite, right? Yes. Like a likely DC. And so in that scenario, as a voter, you look at the choices and you're like, well, now I am free to just support whoever I want to support that I believe in the most. And you know, Peggy Flanagan wins by 20 points. In Wisconsin, you have to imagine there were a bunch of Francesca Hong, people who really liked Francesca Hong and probably agreed with her more on the issues or found her campaign more inspiring or whatever it may be than David Crowley, but looked around, looked at polls, looked at her performances, maybe looked at their governor that they like very much, even though he's older in establishment, and said, you know what? Ugh, can't do it. It's too important to win this state. And like, that seems to me like a entire, like, I know everyone always says like, well, electability is all subjective and it doesn't matter, but like, I do think there have to be some sort of objective standards by which to judge electability that I think voters are trying to sort of figure out on their own.
I think the way I like to think about it is, no one knows for sure who is electable and who isn't. And the political environment is much more important than the quality of any individual candidate. But there are things we can look at that give us an idea on people's electability. One of which is what is their history of winning tough races? Do they have it? Is there actual evidence of them winning over swing voters? This is quantified by split ticket in their wins over replacement model, but you can just, like, we know that Andy Bashir and Josh Shapiro can win over Republican voters. They have proven that multiple occasions. Do we know that Gavin Newsom or AOC can do it? We do not know that. Can they? Maybe, but they've never proven to be close. That's an untested proposition.
We should say, because it's actually very useful for people, I think, is the wins above replacement sort of calculation. Basically what Split Ticket has done is, and other people have done things similar, but what they've done is they come up with like a baseline, right? So if like the baseline.
How would a generic Democrat do?
Right. How would a generic Democrat do? So what was like the national House vote, and they put a whole bunch of factors into it. So if a regular Democrat, if a generic Democrat would win this race by 2 points, and X candidate wins it by 4 points, then they're +2 win above replacement. If the other Democrat still wins the race but only wins it by 1 point, then they're -1 win above replacement. And you can do this with all the different House candidates and all the. Now, what was interesting in the case of Michigan is, first of all, Abdul had run once for governor and lost, so he in a primary, so he didn't have a long record there. Haley Stevens, the lowest wins above average of any of the Democrats in the House in Michigan, which I hadn't realized. So in that scenario, you actually didn't, like, it seemed like Haley Stevens was like, because she was more moderate and backed by the establishment, like maybe you'd think she was more electable, but in terms of the objective measures you had, that wasn't necessarily the case. Sure enough, the argument, which is, you know, Laksha Jain, who's the pollster for the argument and also is Split Ticket, does the wins above replacement. He said that they had in their model, if they have Abdul as a 70% chance of winning the general, and Haley Stevens would have been 80% chance. So it's like 10% difference it's something, but it's not.
It's big. It's actually, the difference between 70 and 80 doesn't feel huge. The difference between 50 and 40 feels quite big when you get there.
Well, I think
that
that's
gets
my
you
point.
to the other that gets you to the other measures, which then you get past data, right?
Yep.
And so then there is the question of extremism, and it's not always true, but it is mostly true that the candidate who is seen as more extreme loses. This is the thing that always makes people want to throw their phone in the ocean, but Donald Trump was seen as more moderate than Kamala Harris in 2024, and Joe Biden was seen as more moderate than Donald Trump in 2020. And so you look at that and you say, does Abdul, like if you take Michigan for instance, you would say, does Abdul have positions and statements that could be used to make him seem more extreme than Haley Stevens? Possibly. Yeah. I think that's probably where you get to this that net difference for them. Then the third thing is candidate quality, and this is all subjective. Where you're like, does this person seem like they can stand? This is going to be particularly true in a presidential debate, the presidential election. Can they stand on the stage with J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio or Tucker Carlson or whoever else and like hold their own? Can they go on podcasts? Can they give a good speech? Can they do those things? And that I think is where Abdul seemed like he really showed a lot of candidate skill. And Haley just ran a campaign in the end where she was just not very present in the media, so people didn't see her. Although I would say her post-election media tour she has crushed.
Yeah.
And then Hong went on this huge media tour, did every interview, seemed ill-prepared for a lot of them, and that people saw that with their own eyes. So it's like, yes, Evers said that, but then everyone actually saw clips that made them say maybe this person cannot win or is less likely to win.
Well, that's why too. It's like, yeah, it is subjective, and no one really knows who's electable or not. It's technically true, but all of this exists on a spectrum. And there are some people where you're like, who's the more electable candidate? Well, they're both kind of good on TV, and sometimes they make mistakes, but one's inspiring for this reason. And they're like, that's a close call. With like, when Francesca Hong goes on TV and is like, well, it has to talk about canceling Thanksgiving and why, police exist to uphold white supremacy. Most people who don't pay attention to politics, if you showed them that clip, they'd be like, yeah, that's weird. No, thank you. So like that's an easier, or let's take another example, the Biden-Trump debate, right? Like, and Biden does perform so horribly that afterwards it's like, okay, yeah, there's like nitpicky debate, figure skating judge quality to analyzing debates, but that's an easy call. most people would be like, that's awful.
Right. See, these are extreme examples, but the problem, it gets harder. Like, as we get to the presidential election, right? And so imagine you're down to at the end. I'm just picking these sort of randomly. Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, AOC.
Ooh,
like that's
a tough one.
Yeah, say they're all like, you can make a case for all of them, and then it becomes more subjective. And then the thing that I think is important to note, and this is like a huge problem in 2020, is the electability discourse is very racially and gender coded. And this was particularly true in 2020, where it's just, we filter the election through the mind of a white dude in Wisconsin, and like, who do they want? And people, you hear this in focus groups all the time. People project onto voters they do not know biases. It's like Kamala Harris did with Pete Buttigieg, is the VP, where you say, well, he's a gay man, that's too much for America. Yep. And that's like that very, and if you take that, you never, like, you also would have said Barack Hussein Obama, too much for America. There are times, like, I think the discourse is, there are some things you can look at that are real. There are some things that makes it quite complicated, and sort of can narrow the aperture of what you're looking for. Absolutely, you're not even doing it based on data. You're doing it of perceived biases of the election or small sample sizes of women losing presidential elections.
Sometimes I think we confuse in the electability discourse the very real perceived biases in the election, in the electorate, right? And the fact that a lot of this electability discourse is absolutely gender and racially coded. But that is true. That is how people think. And what does a candidate and a campaign do to overcome that? So yes, people thought that Barack Obama couldn't be president because how are we going to elect a black guy named Barack Hussein Obama from Chicago as president of the United States when we just lost with the war hero against George W. Bush? And And even black voters in South Carolina at the beginning of the campaign did not think that Barack Obama was ready to become president. So what did Barack Obama do? He won over a bunch of white voters in Iowa and proved that maybe it's not so crazy to think that a black man named Barack Hussein Obama could become president. So part of this is realizing the biases that exist in the electorate and then putting together a strategy.
And what makes it more unfair, this is for late 2020, is there's a lot of the campaign that never happens before you get to actual voters.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you need money, you need attention, and when people like, there was Elizabeth Warren was at the top of the polls until there was a New York Times story about how Elizabeth Warren probably couldn't beat Trump. And she really tanked after that because the hyper-engaged Democrats, particularly ones in Iowa and New Hampshire, were like, oh wait, we love Elizabeth Warren, we like her policies, but she probably can't beat Trump. Well, then we, 6 in 10 of us, would prefer to have someone who can beat Trump.
And this is going to absolutely shade a lot of the discourse going into 2028, yeah, particularly because we have lost Donald Trump. So like, unfairly or not, it's going to be a huge part of it. It's going to be, I think, hard for a lot of candidates to overcome it, but stranger things have happened. Barack Obama became president.
Pod Save America is brought to you by Bombas. Summer's coming to an end, so we're soaking up every outdoor moment we can. You gotta go to the beach, go to backyard barbecues, you're going on runs, you're just being outside in the nice weather. Bombas makes your comfiest footwear staples. So you can
The polls were off by a decent amount in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. As the roller coaster, you are therefore required to defend switchcraft. Keep telling us that the future is near certain.
Yes,
that's been
as
your
all
message.
listeners of Roller Coaster know,
Last
that's
10
what we
years.
say. The polls are not a snapshot in time. They are not an imprecise measure. They are perfect soothsaying. Yeah, look, I think if we look at these, the polls were very wrong, but let's talk about what that means in this case. One, it's worth noting that primary polls are often quite wrong. Like they have a long history of being wrong. That has become more true in this era where it becomes almost impossible to get anyone to take a poll, because polling looks much more like election modeling, where you're guessing what the electorate looks like in advance and then weighting your very random sample to match them. And so if you model the electorate wrong, you are going to miss everything. And that it's easier to model in a general election, particularly now we've had a bunch of them in the Trump era, which is why the polls are more accurate in 2024. So that's even harder in the primary. It's particularly hard in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Minnesota because those are open primary states where independents and Republicans can vote. It's one of the reasons that even it appears that the internal campaign polls were all wrong, because in those states, you can't even go off the voter file a poll. You were basically these media pollsters are relying on self-reported party ID, and the campaigns are using modeled support where they sort of guess whether someone's Republican or Democrat. But you go into it, you have no idea how many independents are going to, like, they walk in to the voting booth and they pick a ballot. They get to choose right there. And so it's very hard to know. It also seems very clear that in these states, the pollsters oversampled young voters, and these young voters tend to be more progressive. They're the ones supporting Poole, Flanagan, and Hong, and that's a misjudgment of how many people vote, and they are undersampling working class voters, and particularly in Wisconsin and Michigan, black voters. And then the other thing I'd say is most of the polls that we saw were not high quality polls. We don't have New York Times Siena polls of these races.
Yep.
Marquette did poll. Marquette is a highly rated pollster. They did poll in Wisconsin and were wrong, but their poll was actually more than a week old by the time the election happened. And one thing that we'd get a poll a week out and it says the race is tied, and then one candidate wins by 3. Everyone says the poll is wrong. It's like, well, it's also possible, in addition to that, to make the margin fairer, people change their mind. Undecideds move. And in Wisconsin, in particular, it seems very clear that there was real movement at the end. You had, like, in that, State Navigate did a poll that was like 5 days out that ended up being quite wrong. But in that poll, so you had 9% of undecided voters. So all those voters seem to have gone to Crowley. You had a bunch of other candidates in the field including two in Mandela Barnes and Sarah Rodriguez, who had dropped out of the race. And they had supporters, and some of those supporters went to David Crowley. And so what poll, like we have to look at polls.
She hit her, Francesca Hong was basically polling around 40%, which is what she got.
In some of these polls, she was 4 or 5 points over 40, but yes, it basically got her within a reasonable polling error.
Right.
They got her number. And what happened is everything else moved towards Crowley. And he had momentum. She was struggling down the stretch. He spent $4 million like in the last week, 10 days or so on broadcast and linear television, which I think made a huge difference. And so we have to remember that people change their minds, undecided voters decide, and that is what affects the final margin, and that it's certainly a huge factor in what happened, at least in Wisconsin, probably to some extent in Michigan as well.
Minnesota's a little more confusing to me because in that one, the polls towards the end showed it kind of close, and then instead Peggy Flanagan, the more progressive candidate, won by 20 points. So they underestimated the more progressive candidate in Minnesota.
Yeah, those polls might have just been wrong.
It just goes to show you, I think, that like it's a number of different factors, and it's like I wouldn't think to ourselves as we go into the midterms, and you tell me if I'm wrong, that like, oh no, they're always gonna oversample younger voters and the polls are all gonna be off. Because that didn't happen in Minnesota and it hasn't happened in other places.
It's possible. It's also worth remembering that in 2025, the polls in New Jersey and Virginia were off. They were very far off in New Jersey, and they undersampled Democrats in that case, or oversampled Republicans. And it's going to be interesting. This is we're getting super nerdy here, but they were wrong in 16. The polls were right in 2018. 2018 behaved like a normal midterm because all of these low engaged Trump voters did not turn out in that one. 2020, they were incredibly wrong. 2022, they were actually quite right. No one believes that because everyone thought the red wave was coming, but the polls were historically accurate in that race. And then in 2024, the polls were right again. But the pollsters, for the most part, there are some exceptions, and Nate Cohn of the Times included, but they used basically like a statistical sledgehammer to jam more Trump voters into the polls, which worked. How they're going to factor in and model Republican turnout in this election and how they're going to try to accommodate, like what is the baseline? Are you if you do it, what are you waiting? They waited basically in 2024. They weighted a poll to the 2020 vote share. I don't know how they're going to do this year. It's going to be very interesting to see.
I should probably bring this up since it's sort of breaking here as we're talking, but Fox News released 2 Senate polls. Michigan, Mike Rogers 51, Abdul 47. And then Sherrod in Ohio is up by the same as he was last time, which is 53-45. I don't know if I buy either of those, to tell you the truth.
I mean, Sherrod Brown is not winning Ohio by 8. That'd be a 19-point overperformance in 2024.
That to me seems further off than the.
Yeah, I would say that both of those races end up being closer. And are like 2-point races. I think there's a world where Abdul could win by 4 or 5. I find it highly unlikely that Mike Rogers could win by that much.
Yeah.
But I think there's work for Abdul to do. I think he has real work to do. And he, in all of the polling, even the ones that showed him doing the same as Haley Stevens against Mike Rogers, he was dramatically underperforming the political environment. It should be, Michigan is 50-50 state. He should be starting with 6 points in his pocket.
Right. Because, so everyone knows, even though Michigan's close, if the national environment is 6 points more favorable to Democrats than it was in 2024, then that's how you get that. Speaking of election forecasts that promise 100% accuracy, Nate Silver dropped his midterm model this week called Forecast with Leading Indicators, Polls, and Expert Ratings, or Flipper for short. I'm going to call it Flipper. So Nate's forecast has historically been closer to the mark than most other models. He's not known as someone who's biased toward Democrats or Republicans in his modeling. But it is notable that he gives Democrats, as of this recording, an 86.1% chance of winning the House. And I said as of this recording, 56% chance of winning the Senate, but I bet once he throws in that Michigan poll, that might go down a little bit.
Yeah, the Fox is an A-rated poll, and so that will bring that down somewhat.
And since it just came out, I'm sure he hasn't updated it yet, but by the time you listen to this, it will be updated. What do you think of Nate's forecast, and what should people know about what goes into that besides just polling? Because I think some people probably just assume that it's a polling aggregator where you're just throwing a bunch of polls together and averaging them out, which is not.
Yes. For a long time, the Real Clear Politics polling average was what everyone followed, and that really was just math where they added all the polls together and then divided by the number of polls to get the average, as if they were in 5th grade math. What Nate does, and others like Laksha Jain do that's much more complicated, is they build a statistical model that takes in polling. Nate at least weights the pollsters based on quality of the poll. He actually has, in the past, I don't know if he's doing this in the case, he's established what he calls a house bias, that some pollsters over time tend to be more Democratic or more Republican, and then he will factor in that house bias into it. He will also includes fundamentals, like how much money the campaigns have raised, the larger political environment. There is a benefit to incumbency in these races and fits that in. And then this time, actually, he has 3 versions of his model. The deluxe model, if you will, actually factors in the expert ratings from like Cook Political Report and others. It's interesting too. If you read his methodology page, because the polls have been so wrong, he's overweighting towards fundamentals this time. Or he's putting more weight on fundamentals than he has in the past.
Interesting.
Which is interesting. And I'm gonna be very, very interested to see what the Michigan poll, which by the time you guys are listening to this, you may be able to go to his site and check it out. But how that changes it, because if I recall correctly, I think maybe this was Laksha Jain, but I don't want to smear him in case it was an incorrect take. But basically, in some people's model, if Democrats' chances of winning the Senate are, let's say they're 57 or whatever it is, if they lose Michigan, that number drops to the 30s.
Yeah.
So that if Michigan is you really need Michigan to take the Senate, and if we are a poll that shows us losing Michigan badly, will probably move the Senate forecast a little bit at least.
I also think the Senate forecast started even higher than 56%, and it went down to 56 today because
it was at 57 on the first day.
There was an Emerson poll that shows Tellerico down 1 in Texas.
I'll tell you what, though, that poll shows Tellerico is 70% of the black vote, and if he is down to 70% of the black vote in Texas, then he's going to win by a fair amount. Which I think that is a bad. Probably not enough voters to actually have it, but he's going to get a lot more than 70% of the vote.
Now, we're not in the prediction business, and we always warn you about these things. So what good is an election forecast for all of you? I do think that one of the more interesting parts of Nate's forecast, Nate's model, is for the House races, they show you like what are the closest House races in the country, and that list can update. And I think if you want to volunteer, if you want to donate money, it is kind of helpful to look and see the closest House races, the closest Senate races, and then you go to Vote Save America, and we can make sure you're connected with the right people, so you can have something to do and some place to donate. So I do think that is very helpful to have like what races are the closest, and to kind of see it updating over time.
It is emotional management for most people. They're going to live and die with several point drops in the forecast.
Yeah, don't do that, because it's gonna be quite a roller coaster, if you will. From now until November. All right, last thing before we go, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt announced on Wednesday that she's leaving her post at the end of the month to, quote, embark on a new chapter and spend more time with her kids. She will, of course, be missed. And as former White House comm staffers, we thought it only fitting to say farewell with a tribute to some of her finest moments.
She's become a star. It's that face, it's that brain, it's those lips, the way they move like she's a machine gun.
Hatred has no place in the United States of America under President Donald Trump.
The president's been spotted out and about a number of times with bandages on his hands. Could you please explain what that is about?
The president is literally constantly shaking hands. Why was Renee Good unfortunately and tragically killed?
Are you asking me my opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and killed her unjustifiably.
Oh, okay. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack. The president had a feeling, again, based on fact, that Iran was going to strike the United States, was going to strike our assets in the region. At this moment in time, of course, the ballroom is really the president's main priority. He believes that Canadians would benefit greatly from becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. It's well past time that President Trump was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize.
Because it was 2011 when Barack Obama and Seth Meyers said you'll never be president, bloppity bop. Here we are with President Trump going on stage as a two-term president.
For the first time. This speech tonight will be classic Donald J. Trump. It'll be funny, it'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room.
Very, just North Korean propaganda through and through.
Yeah, it's Baghdad Bob.
Yeah, big time. I love he does believe that Canadians will benefit from being the 51st state. Just said with a straight face.
Which was a thing that actually happened in American politics.
Yeah, well, kudos to her for saying that all with a straight face. As for who might replace Levitt at the podium, names are already being floated all across the MAGA media ecosystem. Lots of exciting possibilities, and it's a wide open field. So each of us, without sharing with each other yet, has ranked our top 5 most likely picks. So why don't I think we should each go 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3.
Okay,
and then
perfect.
We get,
That's what I was hoping for.
Okay.
I really kind of messed up the punchline of mine, but we'll do it this way.
Okay, that's fine. You want to go for who's your number 5? Who's your number?
My number 5 is Marco Rubio.
That's funny. That's funny. I already saw some of the Rubio on the couch memes where he's got a blonde wig on. So
yeah.
The internet.
I use those.
My number 5, Erica Kirk.
Now that is an interesting suggestion.
You think it's crazy, but you're like, wait a minute. She's, she does a lot of public speaking. Big favorite of the MAGA world. Who knows? Number 4.
So, before I give number 4, I would like to just point out my thinking here, which is Donald Trump has had 5 press secretaries. Can you name all 5?
Whoa. Oh, because we have to go back to the first term, huh?
Yeah. I can do it for
Sean
you.
Spicer, Katie McEnany.
Yep.
What's his name? Scaramucci.
Never press secretary.
He wasn't for 14 days?
He's communications director.
Oh, he didn't step in for the. Oh, yeah.
No. He might have done some briefings.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Yep.
Caroline
This one
Levitt.
here.
And so now I'm just one. I have one, right? That I'm missing?
Stephanie Grisham.
Oh, Stephanie Grisham.
Yes.
Okay.
So, 5 press secretaries. The last 4 have been women.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Donald Trump's going to pick a man.
I don't either.
So, my number 4 is.
Although I have one man on my list.
I did too, obviously. But my number 4 is Anna Kelly, who's currently the deputy press secretary.
I keep seeing that around, but it's like. I feel like he always wants to go for someone who has been on TV a bunch.
He's also lazy, so
yeah, that's true.
Is a man so lazy he wouldn't even pick a new national security advisor?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
That would be that's the lazy route. I don't think it's obviously not what I think is most likely, but I think it's on the table.
My number 4 is my favorite and yours, Trisha McLaughlin.
Oh God, that's definitely not happening, but that is a good suggestion for content purposes.
You don't think it's? I think I did read somewhere that she might be pregnant, so that would be tricky. At least if it's happening soon. I don't know how pregnant she is, but I could see. I mean, she was clearly auditioning for White House press secretary her entire time at DHS, and she has not taken a new job yet.
Okay, it is on the table.
Mm-hmm. All right, what's
my
your
number 3? Carrie Lake.
Yeah, Carrie Lake it's a possibility.
Trump loves her. She's a loyalist.
She is crazy.
She's crazy. She'll fight with the press, which is what he cares about most. She's a former reporter. She's good on TV in a Trumpian way. She's good on TV.
Right. Yeah, I thought about her, and I was like, is she? Trump likes his spokespeople, like young, like Fox News anchors.
Yeah, that's
the only thing that.
Yeah.
Well, in my number 3, same thing. This is a departure from this, which is Scott Jennings.
Interesting. See, I was thought about Scott Jennings, but then I went with my whole man thing, and then I had to do the very cheesy, unfunny Rubio joke.
I would not put the money on Scott Jennings, but I put him on my list because
we are betting all of these on Kalshi, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yes, obviously.
As we do with everything.
Okay. My number 2, Katie Miller.
So, I was going to have Katie Miller on there, and then I, of course, did some research for this segment, and in one of the Politico stories about the search, a source close to Miller said, not happening. Absolutely not.
That's exactly. Oh, now
You think
I
that's
take
what
Katie Miller's word. Yes.
Maybe. What was she? She has a wildly successful podcast. What's she going to do
Maybe
with
she just
that?
do the podcast in the briefing room.
Yeah, that's probably good.
She likes attention. She's very combative.
Yeah, I mean, she would. Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah.
Isn't it my number 2? No one. Just doesn't fill the role. Continues to have a bunch of dipshits jump into the briefing room once in a while and says, "Fuck it, I don't even want the press. I don't want to deal with it. He's the press secretary."
I thought about putting that on my list too, and then I thought that was maybe like a little too trying too hard for a viral clip, if you will.
What? That no one? Or
if
him?
I said Trump, if I picked Trump, my number one choice is Donald Trump. That seemed like a bit much.
Yeah, no, that is a bit.
I think he really cares about the briefing.
Like he wants to watch something. He doesn't want to watch.
It is a lull in the Fox schedule during the day. I think he does not watch Will Cain, so usually the briefing is during Will Cain, and so that solves that problem for him.
Will Cain?
Too dumb.
Yeah. All right, number 1.
Number 1. This is a totally out of left field. It's a crazy choice. Rachel Campos Duffy.
She started at like 40%, like I don't know how they got there. I think it was like 40% or something, and she's like fallen down to less than 1%.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure the people who are betting. What we have to watch for is if all of a sudden there is a surge behind one person.
Yeah,
that's what I think we can trust. She's a Fox News anchor. She is she's a reality TV star. She's married to Sean Duffy.
Married to
in the family.
Yeah.
Loyal. Trump likes her a lot. Talks about her a lot. Back before Sean Duffy was in the cabinet, he used to tweet about her all the time. Big fan of hers.
I can see that one. She's on my list.
Splash.
Yeah. I should have kept her on my list. I have Alina Habba.
That's. I knew
she's the favorite right now.
I knew in my soul you were going to pick Alina Habba first. And so for content purposes, I took Alina Habba off my list.
I know. I almost didn't want her first because I was like, I think it's boring. But I actually think if we're just doing most likely, I would put money on that.
Yeah. So you were trying to take this as a serious stand.
Yeah, of course.
I was doing this for totally content purposes.
Of course. Well, good luck to everyone on our list, and hopefully it was good to do some outside announcements that are not on Cal Sheet like Harrison Berg and because maybe if we say them, you know, the MAGAverse listens to us, so if we put it out there, maybe we can build some buzz.
If you are listening to Pod City America and then you think that we said something about who Trump might hire as his press secretary, and then you went and put money on that, get home.
Well, that might describe Elijah.
Well, I mean, he's so far behind help. Yeah.
I can hear Austin laughing. All right, Dan. Well, that's our show for today. Tommy will be back on the feed on Sunday with a conversation with tech journalist Casey Newton about the terrifying AI moment we're in. Exciting, and what we can do about it. Casey's awesome. That's going to be a great conversation. And then John and Tommy and I will be back with a new episode on Tuesday. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Pods of America is a Crooked Media production. Our show is produced by Austin Fisher, Saul Rubin, McKenna Roberts, and Farrah Safari, with Reed Cherlin, Elijah Cohn, and Adrian Hill. Our team includes Matt DeGroat, Ben Hefko, Jordan Cantor, Charlotte Landis, Kirill Pelaviv, David Tolles, Mia Kelman, Ryan Young, and Naomi Single. Our staff is proudly unionized with the Writers Guild of America East.
At the start of the Iran war, the United States had 2 carrier groups in the region. One of them had multiple difficulties, including the underwear section of the ship catching fire. That's the Gerald Ford, as well as people accidentally flushing socks and T-shirts down the toilets, clogging them up. So the Gerald Ford carrier group had to retreat from our war effort. That left the USS Lincoln, which cost us something like $10 or $20 billion to produce. Which costs us, I think, around $8 million a day to operate. I was just doing a little math. That's about $300,000 an hour to keep that thing going. Let's check in on how it's going. Not so well. I'll put this first element up on the screen. Sailors are trying to jump off the thing as it's been out in the ocean for more than 240 days at this point. Let's roll let's roll this first thought.
You guys, there's a mental health crisis happening aboard the USS Lincoln in the Middle East that no one is talking about, and mainly because the Navy's pretty much quashing it. You will read online about food shortages, supply shortages, poor morale among crew members. That's because they've been at sea continuously for 250 days. They've been deployed a total of 271 days, 250 without a port of call. That's unheard of. Normally they will go to port every 3 to 6
Something
weeks.
to report?
They have not been to port in 38 weeks. Keep in mind there are 52 weeks in a year. And yes,
Need
the
someone to
showers are
investigate a
moldy.
couple.
They're eating basically
You
like
interested?
the gruel kind of slop at this point. There's no
All
deodorant,
right.
there's no toothpaste. My
transfer
nephew
that to
has
you.
a friend on board
Done.
there, and I was basically
Jump to
hearing
that spot and
updates
clean
last week when I
house.
was in the States in real time. They're not talking about the mental health crisis. 6 people have tried to jump off that ship. The most recent was last Monday. You know, when you have not touched land in 38 weeks, in over 200 days, things start to happen to you mentally. You know,
Sounds like space
combine
was
that
tried
with
scrapping
exhaustion,
ships.
and deadly mistakes start to happen. So, you know, this is how the Department of War, this is how Donald Trump treats our servicemen and women, whose lives are already being put in harm's way for a bullshit war of aggression that was supposed to be over in a matter of weeks. We are further putting their lives at risk out of sheer ineptitude and neglect. It defies logic, it defies reason, and it defies basic fucking humanity.
And this is not just a guy saying his nephew talked to his cousin. We can put up this next element. This is E2 from the Military Times. Multiple USS Abraham Lincoln sailors have tried to go overboard amid extended deployment, families say. So this is...
Pressure holding.
They had a word they're getting resupplied, from shore as quickly as possible from little, shuttle boats
Achieving
going
orbit
back and
now.
forth. But this is getting dark, and this is what the U.S. has to threaten Iran with as it's going into these negotiations that aren't exactly happening, right? Like, if you don't give us what we want in these talks, we're going to unleash hell on you again. We have to fear some U.S. training and recruiting sailors.
Jump complete. Want to do it again?
And if you
Just
look
for
at it,
fun?
I'm not so sure this
Enemy
is
has lost their front drive.
if it is already moved significantly out of close range missiles, which point will get you close to your targets.
Good. Jumping out of here.
Cruise missile attacks. You're going to the sailors who are in charge of the defense of the ship are not going to commit their peak performance.
So Stars and Stripes, which my recollection is the Department of War has tried to sort of editorially assert dominance over, also reported yesterday that there's this massive meeting between families of people who are deployed on the USS Lincoln and Navy Secretary Hunt Cowell. In one case, they say from this meeting, the spouse tearfully told officials that she received a message that same day from her husband saying, quote, he hopes he doesn't wake up tomorrow.
I mean,
38 weeks in.
Right. And for what? It's like not really even in the fight. And
And I think that's what's so demoralizing probably for them.
The actual for what is that it's there to provide missile defense for Israel.
Right.
Like that's the Navy's main role at this point in the region is if hardcore fighting breaks out again, Israel is down reported double-digit otherwise, Tel Aviv would look like Kyiv now, which has basically depleted its stock of missile interceptors. And now, when there are ballistic missile attacks from Russia on Kyiv, you see headlines of 10, 12, 25, 55, like significant casualties because they're no longer able to shoot it down.
Yeah, they also don't have a publicly announced return date, and so they're just kind of in limbo. And that's enormously demoralizing too, especially when the commander-in-chief is vacillating back and forth between, well, the war is about this, or the war is about this, the war is over, the war is not over. I just can't imagine. They were supposed to, the anticipated end date was back in May, and now they don't have a return date. There doesn't seem to be an end in sight for them right now. They did a record deployment without without a port stop. It's a bad situation. Bad situation for everybody. If you support the war, this is obviously a bad situation. Even if you're one of the few people in this country that actually supports the war, this is a bad situation.
Yeah, yes indeed.
All right, let's move on, Ryan, to your reporting out of Gaza.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps my show to more.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at BreakingPoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media. BreakingPoints.com.
Good morning, everyone. It's Friday here at Breaking Points. We got Crystal, Ryan, and Emily. How's everybody doing today?
So far, so good.
Incredible. It's good. I'm happy to be back. I suffered a severe concussion 2 weeks ago, and now I am returning to the show, much like one of our favorite senators with a pro-Israel perspective. Hit my head hard enough for that one, so I'll be fact-checking drop site news and ZDO. But we got a big... But we got a big show this morning, as always. We've got some Iran updates. The CIA is saying that Trump was in the catering cart due to Israeli intelligence. We've also got Hassan potentially filing a lawsuit against one Scott Jennings. And we have a mathematician from the University of Toronto joining the show to discuss artificial intelligence and its effects on long unsolved math problems. Crystal is really interested in that one, and we're going to learn more about that. And finally, we have a documentary.
I'm deeply interested in long unsolved math problems.
Yes.
That's what I do in my spare time. Just contemplate long unsolved math problems.
And women can do that.
That's right.
So everyone knows.
Theoretically.
Crystal, I think it's beautiful.
Thanks, Em. Appreciate your support, theoretically.
And finally,
now joining
we've
us
got
Larry Summers for more.
What a pull! That's a deep
like
cut.
That?
That's a deep cut.
All right, big energy this morning, and we're going to cap it all off with an interview with the documentary director of American Doctor, who has a documentary that is in Sundance in the South by Southwest that is documenting the experience of American doctors who went into Gaza during the genocide. All of that and more here on Breaking Points Fridays. But first, let's do some Iran war updates. Now, everyone knows we covered Trump with a little bit of a decoy plane earlier this week, but now CIA is telling their colleagues at the Washington Post that it was Israeli intelligence that put him in the box. I'll just read a little bit here. U.S. intelligence officials were skeptical of an Iranian assassination threat against President Donald Trump that was relayed by Israel and prompted an extraordinary clandestine maneuver that saw him secretly fly out of Turkey in an alternate military aircraft. The assassination threat was relayed by the Israeli government to the CIA, where analysts did not view the intelligence as compelling and conveyed that skepticism to Trump administration officials. Another official called the reports of threats against Trump's lives Israeli-derived, not U.S.-generated, and viewed as low confidence. What do we make of that, folks?
I mean, not a surprise. And they, Trump reportedly, part of his mentality starting this war was fear over alleged Iranian assassination attempts on his life. So Israel going back to that well. And it also reminds very much of the fake intel regarding the Iranian nuclear program that they fed to Trump also to help persuade him to jump into this war. Intel that was contradicted by our own intel community. So apparently he is still taking very seriously what the Israelis have to say. And then the other part of this is just throw out there is like, isn't this creating kind of a crazy incentive for the Israelis with regard to into Trump's life since he said, you know, if anything happens to me, then we're going to like completely decimate Iran or whatever. So I don't know. There's some weird incentives being created here, I would say, from our great ally in the Middle East.
That was not the most well thought out threat that he made there. I think the extra layer on top of this is Turkey. So, you know, Israel has been saying that they're already pivoting to their coming war with their new great Satan, which is Turkey. And Trump was not just in Turkey, but he was in Ankara, which is, you know, it's one thing to fly to Istanbul. You got half the cities Europe, half the cities Asia. You're right there. You can see the Mediterranean off in the distance. Ankara, you know, hour or two flight deeper into Turkey for an American who is already paranoid, you know, getting closer to Syria and Iran and Iraq is going to heighten their cortisol. And so he was at a particularly vulnerable moment. And so I think what they also want is Trump to think, oh, I'm not even safe in Turkey. Maybe Israel's right that the Turks aren't willing to protect me, and maybe I need to give some more credence to this hostility that they have towards Turkey. I don't think that will work, but I think that the fact that it was in Turkey played a significant part in why they wanted to pull the trigger at this exact moment.
Thank you, Captain.
I said to someone right away, I was talking to someone about this, and I said, I bet this was Israeli intelligence. And the reason I thought it was Israeli intelligence is actually because the big scandal of them not moving press secretary, reporters off the plane, and it's actually coming together in a way that I think makes a lot of sense, which is that Secret Service is under an enormous amount of pressure for so many misses and near misses that they just said, listen, we got this intelligence that the CIA is telling us is low confidence. We don't think that it's real. We don't believe it, but we are going to just deal with the president, and we can kind of cross that T and dot that I. But we don't think anything's actually going to happen. So we will continue flying the plane that we are told might get hit by a ground-to-air missile. That's the intelligence, is that somebody might launch a missile at the plane. But I think they didn't really believe it. They just didn't want to take a chance with the president. They wanted to be able to tell him if the question was raised, if the Israelis perhaps raised it with him. And so it actually all makes much more sense now that we have this little piece of the puzzle. It comes into place.
Can I point out one coincidence, though? Curious for everyone's take on this. Does it look like Caroline Leavitt quit when the plane landed?
I was gonna ask the same thing.
No,
there Natalie Harp got on to
she got in the box.
No, Caroline Leavitt.
The printer, yeah.
No, I can say it was kind of a fear among people in Trump world that after Caroline had her second baby, that there had just been a lot of indications that she wasn't going to last long, that she would come back and probably doesn't want to have
It's not a last straw to be used as a decoy in an assassination.
They're going to expect someone to
wasn't real, but like in Trump's mind, he thought it was real enough.
I guess. I don't know.
It would be a pretty good reason to quit. If your boss was like, if you go down in flames, whatever. This lady, she's coming with me. And who's the other one he took? What did he take, Hegseth with him?
Yeah. Hegseth with you. Yeah.
But Rubio was left on the plane, is that right?
Yeah. That's why, again, I think it was like, they're just crossing the T.
It's got to smell crazy in that crane.
But if you're weighing when you're going to quit, how long you're going to stay, you know, if you're Caroline Leavitt at that point, you're like, you know what? Yeah, I think I'm good.
I think now, you know, I'm going to be at home with the baby. That sounds like a better use of my time at this point versus this man that I do everything for and literally was willing to casually risk my life and not even tell me about it. Yeah.
Because they could also just have the plane sit there. Like, if you took this threat seriously, the plane could just sit there on the ground until Trump landed. And then you can announce.
I also want to say,
it's only 5-6 hours. Then you can announce, hey, Trump landed. He's back in Washington. So then they wouldn't shoot down the plane.
I also want to say, I think the Israelis leaked this to the press as well. And then the CIA leaked their side of it. But I think the Israelis leaked it to the press to make it seem to gin up the threats to Trump's life and to put him under even more pressure. Like, I think that's how it got into the media, because it's been there's been like a several-month gap, 3 weeks. Yeah.
That makes sense, because there wouldn't be a whole lot of other people who knew about what was going on. It would be a very close-knit circle. So I was wondering about that, who leaked it as well. So anyway, very interesting. Let's go on, Griffin, to some of these other things that are going on, including we've all been watching what's going to happen with the oil markets. Put the China thing up on the screen, because this is actually really significant. You know, when the Strait of Hormuz was first closed or mostly closed, there were a lot of oil analysts who were like, this is going to be really bad really fast. And then it wasn't great, but it hasn't been total and complete catastrophe. And in fact, Trump seems to think he can kind of like muddle through and ride this out. One of the reasons why it has not been as catastrophic as quickly as anticipated is because China significantly reduced their imports of oil. So that took a lot of strain off the market. And nobody knows, you know, what they're doing exactly or how long they intend to do it, what tactics they're using. There are now indications that they are starting to more heavily re-engage in the market and increase their imports again, putting additional stress on the oil markets and, you know, shortening that timeline until there is some sort of truly catastrophic potential break.
And we've also been tracking not only just the oil, but the sailors. You know, and apologies, I think we said soldiers in a title, but they're sailors, and they've been suffering on the ships here. Jim Acosta actually just shared something that he says is a text from a mother who is on not the Abraham, but the USS Tripoli, that apparently also is experiencing poor living conditions. This text reads, he lost over 30 pounds in just 4 months. He is afraid to reveal the exact number he lost. He doesn't want to worry us, but I'll confirm with you, they were 100% silenced. They weren't allowed to speak negatively about these ships or the leadership command that included low food and hygiene supplies. My son did have to talk to someone on his ship and talk them out of suicide.
Wow.
And they're now... Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, CENTCOM, Hegseth, they're coming out and saying, like, oh no, this is all fake news. This isn't happening. They're all great. They're all fine. Someone just fell overboard and was retrieved and is fine. Nobody's trying to, no one's trying to off themselves here.
And the latest on this is that apparently what they're doing is sending the USS George Washington to replace the USS Abraham Lincoln. That's a aircraft carrier as well. The report here is that they were targeting a port in Vietnam last week and was spotted crossing the Strait of Malacca on Thursday. So en route, it would appear, this is from the Wall Street Journal is reporting this. So maybe some relief coming soon for the sailors.
And on Crystal's point about the oil, did you guys notice that the U.S. and J.D. Vance in particular called Zelensky, told him you have to stop attacking this Russian port on the Black Sea.
Oh, I missed that. That's significant.
And it was wild because this is Kazakhstan oil that is getting piped to a Russian port and then gets shipped off to Europe. And Ukraine was just hitting the port and hitting the ships going in and out of the port. And J.D. Vance called and was like, guys, this isn't even Russian oil. Like, it's a Russian port, but what are you doing to us? So since then they have not hit that port, and they have said that they will abide by that request from the U.S. And meanwhile, the Houthis continue to hit Saudi facilities. Just overnight, they hit another one in Taiz, and that's causing Saudi Arabia enormous problems right around the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which is goes to the Trump administration's project of trying to keep as much oil in as possible. But Ukraine, having devastated Russia's ability to export oil, couldn't come at a worse time for this Trump administration.
The oil market is tightening. You mentioned J.D. Vance, so I did want to put J.D. on Fox. Says Gordon Fox is asking these kind of questions now about the seesaw nature of all this.
Let's talk for a minute about Iran. There is frustration, Mr. Vice President, I think, out there on the seesaw nature of what's going on. We're close to a deal, then we're going to bomb the hell out of it. The strait is open, then the strait is closed. And I'm sure that frustration is shared inside the White House. So I know it's hard to project, but let me ask you, how does this end? What does this look like when and if it's over with Iran?
Well, the thing I can say with confidence is
I think this ends with the United States in a strong position, Iran not having a nuclear weapon, and with the Strait of Hormuz return to a place where oil and gas prices are stable for the American people.
And he continues to go on and say they're using all the tools.
That's a very interesting response to what happens to the Strait of Hormuz. He doesn't say even that the Strait of Hormuz would return to a pre-war status quo. He says that we'll just have traffic basically through the Strait of Hormuz. And so that's the fact that that was the way he described what they're trying to get back to in the Strait of Hormuz is already an L. Now, it being on Fox News, I wouldn't take that to mean too much because Will Cain's show is one of the few that is like willing to be mildly kind of heterodox and outside of, no offense again, but boomer conservative consensus. Actually, offense. Sorry. No offense to the boomers, but to the boomer conservative consensus.
To the Fox News boomers, yes.
Yes,
all
and
the
so
offense to them.
Even the way that question was constructed, it's still pretty gentle.
Of course, yes. Yeah, and one thing I will say is there's some analysis that says there's more dark transit getting through the Strait of Hormuz than maybe is obvious. So, that is easing perhaps some pressure, but at the same time, Strategic Petroleum Reserve continues to dwindle. A lot of questions about what actually constitutes the lowest that you can go there. So, I think previously Trump, when he signed the MOU, seemed to think that there was an imminent collapse that was happening very shortly. He was very concerned about being Herbert Hoover. Now they seem to think that with some maneuvering and jawboning of the markets, they can kind of continue to push this forward into the future. And then Scott Bessent, you guys at Dropsite highlighted this, Ryan. Scott Bessent said that they're going to up the ante in terms of economic torture of Iranian society. Those are my words, not his. But he described a historic 1-2 punch, the likes of which economically have never been seen before in world history. And this is their plan to squeeze the Iranian economy until it becomes completely unsustainable. It doesn't seem like they're close to accomplishing this goal, but I have no idea what new mechanisms they have.
Yeah, it's absurd because whatever they're doing can't be worse than what they're doing in Cuba, which is completely preventing any energy from getting in and cutting it off from basically the entire international financial system and not allowing it effectively to trade with any other country. So that's
and
an
Cuba's
island.
a little island that has a lot less of its own resources, population, etc.
And it's right next to us. This is a country of 90 million that's been under sanctions for 47 years and has developed a significant kind of self-sustaining internal economy. Not enough to get it to the level of where they want to be, but they produce a lot of what they need, whether it comes to industrial capacity, food or energy domestically, and they have huge land borders with people that trade with them. They have train lines that run directly to China. So, good luck, I guess, in your senior year is what Biden says. It makes no sense. But yeah, I guess we'll see what he's got. Certainly, they can make life more miserable, but unlike anything that's ever happened in world history, I'd be surprised.
All right. Well, I think that will do it for the Iran updates. Unless we have any other thoughts there before we move on.
Iran is bombing Iraq again.
Yeah, that is significant. And, I've been saying I think it's unlikely that they just sit here and take the economic punishment and let the U.S. drive the train. It's very possible, likely, that they escalate as part of that. And then one other note is that we got some more information about the amount of damage that the U.S. military sustained during this war. We've lost 25% of our Reaper drones. So, I think Iran can read these reports as well as we can. They know the dire situation of our stockpiles of various weapons. Now they know the amount of drones that were, as a percentage that were successfully taken out of our toolkit. And so, they catch us in a weak spot right now of our own doing. And that's why I wouldn't be surprised if you saw some escalation from that front.
It's kind of merciful that, fewer of us get pay stubs anymore. Just direct deposit. You don't have to see that money going out every 2 weeks directly to the federal government so that they can build these drones and then just have them fall out of the sky.
Yeah, well, I was saying yesterday, I was driving through McLean, Virginia this week, and there are a lot of gigantic, you can't even call them mansions, they're palaces that are being constructed there. So for some people, the war is going very, very well.
It's truly incredible what Northern Virginia what's happened in Northern Virginia the last like 25 years through this forever war.
What's I was gonna say funny, it's not like it's that defense stocks not doing so well. They are in rough shape because they
Getting
haven't been delivering
exposed
for
as your
years.
product not working is not great, it turns out. You would
Not
think
great.
this would be good for them, but yeah. People are like, oh wait, none of this works.
Well done, everyone.
Yeah, and yet the response is, let's spend $1.5 trillion doing the exact same thing that's been proven to absolutely fail, and we're getting our butt kicked by Ukraine when we do war games against them. So let's just continue in this direction with more money.
Yeah, I like it, Ryan. When I do my taxes for the IRS, I want an option to leave a tip. I think that would be great. So,
Custom
let's
tip,
move
or
on.
you just gonna do the 18%? What are you doing?
18%, come on, it's 2026. We're doing 20 to 25%.
Yeah, these guys are working hard. Yeah.
Anything less than
Also,
that.
the Northern Virginia, that's probably a lot of Palantir. Palantir doing great.
That's right. It's where you put your money.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, helps support the future of independent media. BreakingPoints.com.
Hi everyone, I'm here with Rachel Cohen, attorney and organizer. You can find Rachel on Instagram, Blue Sky, and YouTube. And we've actually talked about Rachel before on the show, but I won't embarrass her now by recounting all of that and mentions of her bravery. But because Rachel is awesome, I wanted to have her join me for a quick conversation about the last Supreme Court term and goings on, which again, so important. I don't want SCOTUS to get lost in the never-ending news cycle. So Rachel, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me, Leah. And it's such a thrill for me and also for many members of my group chats, I will say, to be with you today.
Love to help out the group chats. Group chats are everything. I think we call them out on our favorite days anyways. So we'll just go through a series of questions, about the last Supreme Court term and what's going on into it. So what do you think is the biggest thing out of the most recent Supreme Court term, or maybe one of the biggest things?
I think the 5-4 decision, and Barbara, this is an unoriginal answer, but that's because I think many people will agree on what the biggest thing out of this term was. And the biggest disappointment, not just in terms of what that decision was, but also how it was covered. I do have to say, as someone that is well known for being very critical of the court and sometimes probably to a point where people view it as dismissive and not engaging seriously. It was fantastic that you posted first out of the gate, stop describing the Barbara decision as 6-3, I am going insane.
Yes.
Because it lent the rest of us a lot of legitimacy, I think.
Yeah. So just to kind of like remind people of that like 6-3, 5-4 thing, when the court invalidated the first executive order to deny people birthright citizenship, the bottom line vote count was 6-3. 6 justices concluded the executive order was unlawful. But it was actually 5-4 on whether the executive order violated the federal constitution as opposed to a federal law. And what that meant is there were only 5 votes for the proposition that the executive order violated the Constitution. So that kind of like cleared the way for birthright to remain in the political ether and for people to continue attacking it. So since I already kind of gestured over this by describing the first executive order concerning birthright citizenship, I think part of why we wanted to talk about this issue is there's something happening or recently happening in the news that is very much connected to what you say is the worst thing about the most recent Supreme Court term, 5-4 breakdown, Barbara. Want to kind of explain, what that thing is?
So on August 6th, Donald Trump issued 2 new executive orders aimed at not fully eliminating but significantly limiting access to birthright citizenship. And one is specifically targeted at what they're calling birth tourism. And the one that I want to focus on is the other, which the name of is focused specifically on denying birthright citizenship to people whose parents are associated with a foreign terrorist organization, an FPO, which I think opens us to a number of things that have we can talk about that I think have gone under the radar that did not make it up to the court yet, right? Like National Security Presidential Memorandum 7 and the outcomes in the Prairie Land case and prosecution of protesters. But specifically on this kind of FTO designation, what that means for people is that the Trump administration, as I'm sure you're aware, some listeners may be aware, has been designating gangs in Central America as foreign terrorist organizations.
Like Trenday Rocco, for example.
Exactly. That they accused Abrego Garcia of being affiliated with. And that kind of use of FTO designation is very uncommon. I think there is really critiques about FTO designation broadly and the impacts that has on people's ability to organize, particularly in unstable regions across the globe, but specifically on this kind of gang affiliation, because it's very difficult to draw lines in terms of who is the quote-unquote supporting an FTO, particularly if you are someone who comes from a gang-dominated area. Material support could be paying a bribe that people are extorting from you, right? It could be that your child was forcibly brought into the gang, or that you were fleeing because they were trying to force your child into a gang. And I think this frame, when it comes to birthright, I unfortunately would not be surprised if the court found this to be constitutional, and I think it would be weaponized very broadly against people predominantly coming from Central America. We may see additional designations of groups that are active in other regions the administration views as undesirable based on xenophobia and racism. And I think that, as you said, the 5-4 split on the constitutional question is really what left the door open to continued attacks on birthright that will be, I think, a hallmark of the remainder of the Trump administration. And so I don't know if there's anything you feel like I missed on that, if there's...
No, so I want to talk more about like a bunch of the things you said, because I think it's super important. So maybe just to give an additional example, you mentioned the difficulty of drawing lines, determining who in fact, is part of FTO, assuming the administration is just like labeling gangs as foreign terrorist organizations. And, I gave out the example of Trenday Rocco, which was, the gang that the administration designated as a foreign terrorist organization and then used to expel people to the foreign torture prison in El Salvador. And the ease with which the administration accused people of being part of Trenday Rocco should make everyone terrified, because they were accusing people of being part of Trenday Rocco because they had tattoos, and so if you are, as you were saying, from a certain region, and that region, is dominated by gangs, the ease with which the administration could say, well, you are affiliated with, or you support a foreign terrorist organization, could make this a pretty capacious way of denying people birthright protection. But I also wanted to oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to ask if you talked about project. I was typing to make sure I got the name right. That is a case worth bringing in here, which is, I think, 2009. I've closed out, and I should have double-checked. But a case regarding what is material support for a foreign terrorist organization, where a much less conservative Supreme Court held that the plaintiffs in that case wanted to work with designated foreign terrorist organizations on nonviolent trainings and to connect them basically with United Nations programs to make sure that internationally, and here I think sanctioned, we're on board with it, not like we're punishing, internationally sanctioned methods of negotiation. And the Supreme Court said that the government could bar that if they want. So the level of what is support for a for an FTO can extend to even people that are working with NGOs that engage with these foreign terrorist organizations, even if the Trump administration is not just throwing anything at the wall to see what sticks, like tattoos. And I think they will, of course, be doing both.
Yeah. So now I want to come back to, your kind of flagging a real concern about what this Supreme Court might say or do about this slightly different effort to deny some people birthright citizenship. And I wanted to lay the blame on one particular person's shoulders, and that particular person is Brett Kavanaugh, because Brett Kavanaugh is the coward, who was going to say the executive order is violating the federal statute, the law passed by Congress, but did not violate the federal Constitution, thereby opening the door, clearing the way for the elected branches of the federal government to continue, right, hobbling, right, or pulling away at this guarantee of birthright citizenship. And when he wrote that, he wrote a separate opinion that said, well, look, ordinarily, the Constitution, its rules and its exceptions to those rules apply to new circumstances. And what he was saying is he was inviting the administration to come up with a different theory about how they were actually taking the established exceptions to birthright citizenship and just applying that principle to new circumstances. So the specific category, that you've highlighted, the foreign terrorist organization, there is a well-recognized exception to birthright citizenship for the children born to occupying, invading foreign armies, who are occupying the territory of the United States. And I think it's clear that this particular exception, the children born to people who are part of or support foreign terrorist organizations, is kind of meant to be a riff on that exception. And so they are taking up Brett Kavanaugh's invitation to make this argument that, oh, we're taking this established, well-recognized exception. No, it's extremely narrow and limited, right? But they will claim we are applying it even though they are vastly expanding it. And so that, to me, kind of stuck out.
And I think on the historical exceptions point that you made, this doesn't segue completely neatly. And I think because of that, I have failed to center it maybe as much as I should have in conversations about Barbara. But one of the other people who, Brett Kavanaugh, y'all have stayed on his neck correctly for many, many decisions where he attempts to make it so that he can still go to like the inn at Little Washington and people won't harass him. I sincerely
stop my
hope
stream
that
anyway.
anyone who sees him out and about is harassing him, because no matter how much he tries to frame things as reasonable, he is, as y'all have kept front and center, the originator of Kavanaugh stops that has allowed basically indiscriminate detention of Latino people in this country since Vasquez Perdomo. But I also think that Neil Gorsuch, who has historically been associated with the one thing that Neil Gorsuch is known for being comparatively, quote unquote, normatively good on, is federal Indian law and law as it relates to indigenous people and native tribes. And I think that it really was not centered in my own discussion of Barbara, the ways that the existing law on birthright citizenship also attempted to exclude indigenous people and put them in a kind of separate category where you're a member of a different nation, but also this country is not engaging with that nation in good faith. And there's, I think, a real, I know you're going to be shocked, but I think a real intellectual inconsistency in that's disappointing, and even to me was a little bit surprising.
I was surprised
to break that way.
I was surprised as well. Well, we could continue talking about this. There are other groups that the administration is targeting in these, new birthright citizenship attacks. But Rachel, thank you so much for taking the time to highlight this for our listeners. I am sure we are going to be calling on you again to help explain the legal goings-on or the not so legal goings-on in the minds of Brett Kavanaugh, Neil Gorsuch, and whatnot. So thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks so much, Leah.
Strict Scrutiny is a Crooked Media production. Our show is produced by Melody Rowell and Michael Goldsmith. Our music is by Eddie Cooper. Our team includes Matt DeGroat, Ben Heathcote, Johanna Case, Kenny Moffat, Adam Lippert, and Eric Shute. Our production staff is proudly unionized with the Writers Guild of America East.
Since reaching a ceasefire with Hamas in October 2025, the Israeli military has not stopped attacking Palestinians in Gaza. Now that Netanyahu is rejecting a disarmament deal and pledging to stay in Gaza indefinitely, it's worth taking a closer look at what Israel has been doing there month by month. I'll talk about that in a moment, but to get you up to date first, last week, after the Board of Peace the U.S. and Hamas reached a deal that would see Hamas disarm and relinquish power in exchange for Israel withdrawing from the Gaza Strip, an odd thing happened. Or, I should say, it's odd if you have believed American media claims over the past 3 years that Israel was not attempting to carry out ethnic cleansing in Gaza and had no intention of expelling the population and seizing the territory, but instead was truly only interested in getting its hostages back and making sure Hamas could never threaten Israel again. If you believed that, hearing this from Netanyahu would have been odd. Here he is, speaking in Hebrew after a recent security cabinet meeting. As for the Gaza Strip, Netanyahu is saying, first of all, I want to clarify the main thing. As long as I am prime minister, no Palestinian state will arise, not in Gaza and not in Judea and Samaria, neither Fatahstan nor Hamastan. As for specific things coming up in the news lately, I want to be precise here. Israel rejects the 15-point document. I heard people saying, you didn't say it, so here I am saying it again. Israel rejects the 15-point document. The IDF will not carry out any withdrawal until Hamas is disarmed. And when I say disarming Hamas of its weapons, that means the heavy weapons, the less heavy weapons, all the weapons. And we're talking about real disarmament, not fictitious disarmament. Now we're talking to the Americans about this issue. They have ideas, some of which are acceptable to us, and some are not acceptable to us. And we know how to stand firm on these things. Now, Netanyahu is resisting the agreement for a number of reasons. Among them is the looming election, in which any concessions at all to Hamas, even ones already agreed to and done for the purposes of disarmament, would be costly among voters. Of course, most Palestinians under Israeli control cannot vote. Now, the deal being discussed is an extension of the one struck in early October 2025. What has happened since is chilling. Shortly after the agreement was reached, the IDF began burning homes, shops, and crucially, the Sheikh Ajlin sewage treatment station, a central component of Gaza City's sanitation network. In September, according to the Gaza Ministry of Health, some 2,500 people were killed by the Israeli assault. In October, in the weeks after the ceasefire was reached on the 11th, Israel and its proxies killed 226 Palestinians in Gaza and injured 594. In November, Israel continued its deadly strikes, with warplanes bombing tent encampments and displacement shelters, conducting one of the bloodiest assaults, killing over 30 Palestinians, a majority of whom were women and children. Troops also continued moving deeper into Gaza City, expanding the so-called Yellow Line and seizing more territory. On a humanitarian front, aid restrictions continued, with even emergency aid being denied as heavy winter storms hit, causing massive flooding and tents to collapse from the rain, putting hundreds of thousands of Palestinians at risk. Israel had agreed to allow for reconstruction as part of the deal, but instead blocked supplies and equipment needed. Israel killed another 130 people in November and wounded 315. In December, satellite images showed that Israel was preparing for a permanent presence by constructing at least 13 new military outposts inside Gaza. A lack of waste management resulting from the earlier attacks led to a buildup of 900,000 tons of garbage, exacerbating the public health crisis due to Israel's control of all of Gaza's major landfill areas. Israel killed 60 Palestinians in December, the least violent month of this quote-unquote ceasefire, and wounded another 244. In January, Israeli encroachment into Palestinian land continued, with the military turning the Yellow Line, splitting Gaza into a physical barrier. Palestinians walking too close to it would be shot on sight, with no indication given of what counted as too close. At the same time, Trump rolled out his, quote, Board of Peace plan. Children continued to be killed in a surge of attacks in what were supposed to be safe zones. By this point in January, Israel was killing an average of 5 Palestinians every day since the ceasefire. As the winter weather continued, shelter supplies were blocked from entering the Strip, leading to dozens dying from cold temperatures, including babies. 1-year-old Mohammed Bassiouni became the 7th child to die of exposure that winter. At least 25 more were crushed to death by collapsing buildings as storms ripped through Gaza, and even more of the population was forced into tents, even as Israel blocked delivery of tents. That month, 107 were killed by Israeli attacks and 290 wounded. In February, Gaza's government media office put out a report demonstrating that Israel had violated the ceasefire agreement over 1,500 times, with civilians, including women, children, and medical workers, being routinely targeted. The prevention of equipment and supplies to search for bodies in the rubble led to families resorting to crude measures to try and find the family's remains. One man was left to search for his family, the remains of his pregnant wife, unborn child, and children by digging through the dirt with a flour sifter. That month, Israel blocked engine oil and spare parts from getting into Gaza, a move that would have debilitating consequences for machinery, vehicles, and generators over coming months. Throughout February, 106 people were killed and another 250 wounded. In March, after strikes on Iran, Israel reimposed a total siege on Gaza, causing fuel and food supplies to dwindle. 84 people were killed as the world's attention turned away, and another 247 were wounded. In April, as Israel began increasingly outsourcing violence to local militias, one of them launched a deadly attack on a refugee camp, firing people's homes and children under the cover of airstrikes, killing at least 10 and wounding dozens. Later, a 9-year-old girl, Ritaj Rihan, was shot to death in Beit Lahia while attending class at a school made up of makeshift tents. DropSite's Mohammed Ahmed spoke with her mother, Ola Rihan, about the day, and she told him, quote, "She went to school like every other time she goes. She hadn't even been there an hour when I got the news that she was injured. I said, maybe it's a minor injury in her leg or her hand. Not even 15 minutes later, they told me, your daughter has been martyred. I collapsed to the ground from shock. I couldn't bear it. There was supposed to be a ceasefire, but it didn't happen. She was in the school when the bullet found her. What do you want me to say? Ritaj is everything to me. Ritaj is a piece of my heart," she said. She went on her own 2 feet, and she came back to me on a stretcher. Meanwhile, Israel was also denying insecticide and rat poison. Ahmed Dremli reported on the surging rat infestation. Those sleeping in tents had to contend with more than just the elements and now would be routinely bitten while they slept. 115 more Palestinians were killed in April, and 402 were wounded. All of this continued in May, with warnings of an environmental and biological apocalypse if urgent action was not taken. Families continued searching through rubble for their loved ones by hand due to a lack of appropriate equipment allowed in the Strip. The physical divide at the Yellow Line had been fortified with newly constructed military bases. On evening, strikes killed at least 16 Palestinians. The World Central Kitchen announced it was rolling back their food and contribution due to financial pressure, noting specifically that the reduction was not due to a change in the need on the ground. That month, Israel killed another 104 people and wounded 517 in Gaza. In June, the number of people killed since the ceasefire topped 1,000. Israel also temporarily closed all of the border crossings in retaliation for Iran's retaliatory strikes, which came in response to Israel's attacks in Lebanon. Israeli airstrikes on tent encampments on the beach continued. Here's the Yassin family surveying the wreckage around their tents. Meanwhile, at the G7, Trump told the world that Hamas had been respecting the ceasefire. Here he is praising them in his bizarre Trumpian fashion.
Look at the job we've done in Gaza. Look at Hamas. Hamas has been very silent. You haven't read anything about Hamas. And they're trying to get them unarmed. You know, they grew up with a machine gun in their hand. I think they actually, when they were born, they came out with a machine gun in their hands. That's not the easiest thing, but they've actually behaved pretty well, considering this was not the lifestyle that they were taught to have.
June ended with Israel killing another 127 Palestinians in Gaza and wounding 507. July saw further escalation and was the deadliest month of 2026. Israel firebombed a family home with children sleeping in the middle of the night. The Israeli army pushed the Yellow Line further in. Hundreds of bodies remain unidentified, buried in a mass cemetery identified with numbers and not names. It's known as the Cemetery of the Missing. 163 were killed in July and another 624 wounded. In August, after the Board of Peace, Hamas, and the U.S. agreed to the disarmament plan, Israel rejected it. And so, Emily, I just wanted to, because Gaza has been fading a little bit from mainstream coverage, just wanted to remind people that there is technically a ceasefire in place. Yet on a near daily basis, Israel will announce that it struck so-and-so person or tried to strike so-and-so person, or there will just be news of like huge explosions in homes and tent encampments blown up. And it's a very odd understanding of a ceasefire when Israel will say, well, this was a commander who was involved in October 7th, so we attacked their home. It's like, okay, but I thought there's a ceasefire. Like this whole, they're Hamas, you made a ceasefire agreement with Hamas. So it's just such a, it's so hard for me to get my head around this idea that you'll reach a ceasefire and then just continue shooting at the person.
And I'm so glad you did this, because I've been waiting for somebody to put this all together just personally for a long time, because it's hard to wrap your head around the day-to-day in Gaza, especially now that there's a war in Iran. It's just genuinely hard to keep track of day-to-day what's happening with the quote-unquote ceasefire. And for example, you wrote 13 military outposts have gone up, Israeli military outposts. I'm ashamed to say I didn't realize that it was 13 had gone up in Gaza since the ceasefire. That is a remarkable fact, and it's something, to your point, that's getting buried in the coverage. And just the last thing I would say on that is I think that was part of Trump's plan. And we've talked about this, we've asked Jeremy this too multiple times since he's been covering the Iran ceasefire, and he covered the Gaza ceasefire so closely. I think Trump knows that he can make this public relations push to say he settled the conflict and then watch the corporate press put it on the back burner so that politically none of this matters. That's what he's betting on, is that politically none of this matters. And I do think, sadly, that's kind of proving to be true.
And one reason that there's less coverage is that Israel has literally killed so many of the journalists there. 2 days ago was the 1-year anniversary of the deliberate assassination of Anas al-Sharif, who was the most prominent Palestinian journalist working in Gaza. And just this morning, we got news that Mohammed Awad, who is a well-respected photojournalist in the West Bank and a drop site contributor as well, was arrested in a raid on his home in Ramallah. He becomes, by our count, or by a count I saw, the 40th journalist who is currently detained by Israel. And so if you are killing and detaining the people who are going to tell you the news, even if
and letting nobody else in.
And letting nobody else in, even if the public's attention is waning and moving to other issues, if there aren't journalists to tell the story, then there's nothing to kind of take your attention away from. So, what you just saw was the work of journalists who are still going in Gaza. Abdelkader Sadat, Mohammed Ahmed, terrific, courageous journalists, as well as some others that I named there, and led by our Middle East Bureau Chief, Sharif Abdel-Qaddous, who's just absolutely terrific. And they're still pushing, but so many of their colleagues have been killed or imprisoned that the work becomes that much more difficult.
Well, thank you so much for putting that all together, Ryan.
Right, that'll do it for us today. Crystal and Sagar will be back tomorrow, and we'll be back on Friday.
Apologies, this one's probably going to hit your inbox late. We had some teleprompter issues.
Yes, we did.
Our
apologies.
And also, we just kept talking. There's that too.
Our apologies for that too.
Yes. Thanks so much, everyone.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.
Hello and welcome back to Strict Scrutiny, your podcast about the Supreme Court and the legal culture that surrounds it. This episode is a bonus episode we are offering as part of a limited series we are calling Know Your Rights. It's kind of a what can the Constitution do for you guide. As we talked about when we were discussing Melissa's book, The U.S. Constitution, it's more important than ever for the people to understand the Constitution and to be able to claim it for themselves rather than handing it over to the weirdos at 1 Street. A lot of our extra summer content is going to be in that spirit, and that includes this Know Your Rights segment, which we're hoping will be an informative overview to help our listeners stay safe and challenge unlawful conduct in an aggressive enforcement climate that calls for protest and public action. This particular episode is devoted to knowing your rights about cop watching, the ability to observe and record law enforcement officers. And here to join me in explaining rights regarding cop watching is a person who literally wrote the article on the topic, Jocelyn Simonson. Welcome to the show, Jocelyn.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for joining. So Jocelyn is the Herman Badillo Professor of Law at Brooklyn Law School, where she teaches and writes on criminal procedure. She is also the author of Radical Acts of Justice, How Ordinary People Are Dismantling Incarceration. Okay, so Jocelyn, let's start with the basics. What is cop watching and why does it matter right now?
Cop watching is a general term for watching law enforcement perform their duties in public. It could be with a cell phone recording them. It could not be. It could just be observing them. It could be alone or it could be with a group. But it's the deliberate watching of people who claim to represent the public and keep us safe. And because it's deliberately watching someone who has power, it's watching people who are used to having all the power. It carries with it an emphasis that can feel like a challenge and a power shift, right? I am watching you because you claim to be promoting safety. I may be recording you to try to make sure that you do the right thing in the moment. And if not, make sure that others can see what you're doing too.
Yes.
So why is it, cop watching has always been important and it predates cell phones. But as many people are likely aware, there have been moments where cop watching has taken on increased significance. One of them was in 2014 and 2015 around the lives of the Black Lives Matter movement, which is when I began writing about it. But in the last year and a half, cop watching has taken on renewed significance under the Trump administration, especially with watching federal law enforcement come into cities, especially ICE agents, but all kinds of federal law enforcement. So sometimes now it's called ICE watching, but it's the same thing. It's coming together to record law enforcement officers in your community.
And we'll talk about some of those variations in the course of our discussion. But when you wrote your article, Cop Watching, in 2016, it was salient at the time, and it is additionally salient now. So just to give our listeners a kind of reminder, the New York Times ran a story documenting its analysis of hundreds of cases brought by the Trump administration against protesters and immigrants, often related to allegations that people supposedly assaulted immigration officers. And in the 213 cases the Times analyzed where the government lost, they found, quote, officers charged more than 24 people who were filming or following agents. And there was actually no allegation of physical contact with agents. So your article that appeared in the California Law Review, we should say, remains one of the authoritative texts on the topic. And you explored the particular phenomenon of organized cop watching. Can you talk to us a bit about organized cop watching? Where does it come from and what distinguishes it from just casually pulling out your phone when you see police activity?
Yes, I think of organized cop watching as emerging around the 1960s in urban areas in the United States when the Black Panthers famously patrolled city streets with guns and cameras, and other civil rights organizations conducted unarmed patrols in groups to watch police officers to try to keep communities safe and try to tell people what was going on. And when I researched my cop watching article in 2014, 2015, I researched the topic because I was seeing an expansion at the time of the tactic with the rise of Black Lives Matter. And I wanted to interview activists and understand why they were doing it, what they were experiencing, and why it felt so powerful. Because to me, it did feel powerful when I saw it happening. Organized cop watching, it's different than casually pulling out your phone. Because it's collective. It's a group coming together. Sometimes they're wearing matching t-shirts, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they have big visible cameras, sometimes they don't. But it's a group coming together and
sometimes they're organized gangs of wine moms, sometimes they have whistles.
They really are. Yeah. They really are. Sometimes they have whistles. Sometimes there are signal chats. But it's different than casually pulling out your phone. It's collective. It's communal. And so it carries with it a particular significance in the moment. If we want to think of it as expression, which we do, it's saying the community is watching you, not just a person is watching you. And it can also be a communal show of support to those being arrested. I think that's a particular purpose, say, of ICE watching in this moment. Or a way for groups to gather footage and data about what's happening, which of course can be done individually, but can be done much more effectively when done collectively.
Yeah. So what does the law actually say about the right to film or record law enforcement, regardless of whether it occurs spontaneously by individuals or in organized groups?
So the First Amendment does cover the ability to observe and record police officers performing their duties in public. That said, the Supreme Court has that most
Trump.